This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Anthony Richardson goes out of the gun, ball in the near hash, backs to throw, and he is decked from the left, and he is sacked and buried. He took a big-time hit, but more importantly, hangs on to the football, and the Ravens with a sack off the left edge.
And he's going off the field, Matt. He got hit unabated. There was no one blocking. The protection was totally not there. You can't have your quarterback take that shot.
And like you said, Anthony Richardson is out of the game. That was a wicked hit.
Yeah, no, it was weird. He hit me, then I was trying to make sure I had the ball, and I just looked down, and I see my finger different direction. I'm like, maybe I'm tripping. And I looked at it again, and it was definitely like that. So I got to get this thing popped back in place, but I'm good, though.
Yeah, dislocation. They popped it back in right now, day to day. See where it goes. He's feeling all right. You know what I mean? It's a dislocation. They pop back in. I mean, we'll see, where it goes.
Same song and dance. Damn girl, everywhere I go.
Don't know what he could have done about it other than pick up the blitz, but here we go again. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Fan Morning Show. We have one preseason game in the books. Colts lose to the Ravens last night. The score, of course, in a preseason, more incidental than anything else. But good morning, Kevin Bowen. Good morning, James Boyd. Good morning, Mark Dykton. Good to all see you in studio again after a fantastic day out at the Legends Golf Course yesterday, the fundraiser for Franciscan. And before we get going on the Colts, I will say this. Yesterday is everything, guys, that I love about radio, local radio. It's community. It's a great cause. I don't know if you all checked it out, but every single salesperson in the building, every single promotions person in the building, every single management person in the building, aside, Mark got there after the show was over. Aside from all the talent and the shows that were out there every day, the entire Radio 1 team pitching in to raise a bunch of money for Franciscan, have a great time with a bunch of our listeners, give away some great prizes. Beautiful day. Kevin Bowen, I think, had 174 drives yesterday. You okay today?
Did you ice the shoulder?
You had a workout yesterday, man.
Boy, it's one of the more embarrassing things in the world when I woke up this morning and I thought to myself, how the hell am I in this much pain right now? I'm like, Kevin, your body is just such a disgrace. Awesome time. Thank you to the 100 golfers. That was easily my favorite part of the day. I've said this before about our opportunity to do remote shows. We don't get to do a lot of them. So, hence probably the reason why, I don't know, maybe my antics on some of the morning shows are not the most well-behaved. But nonetheless, I love being out there. Great to see everybody. Thank you to certainly, like you said, Jeff, all of our staff, but most importantly, all of our listeners for being out there, supporting, and we had a great time.
And the sponsors, which we'll go over in a minute here, unbelievable, but of course, chief among them, Franciscan. They just do so much great work preventing as many healthcare problems as possible. And of course, once you have a problem, tremendous care as well. And Jake is certainly tied closely to them after his experience. And I'm glad you got to see it firsthand yesterday, James, but it's really something special when sponsors and all the folks at Radio 1 and listeners all get together. It's exactly why I'm in this business, is what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, when I showed up, everyone was like, man, what a celebrity. What a great guy. He's so handsome. And, there's all these things that they were telling me I hadn't heard in person just yet. But
no, you were standing behind JMV.
No, it was great. I enjoyed it, obviously. Got to work on the golf game. I did not swing any clubs yesterday. I didn't want to hurt anybody out there, but I enjoyed really getting to know a lot of people that listen to us every morning and telling us, why they listen, where they listen, things like that. So I'm looking forward to the next event where we can get out there and interact with the folks. And I'm glad that, KB got a chance to crack a beer.
Yeah, I think that's half the reason you like to go to those places, right? Is to get going early.
Yeah, that just not to be technical.
Despite my protestations.
Yeah, not to be technical, James, probably plural on the beers front. So, yes, great day. And thank you, everybody who is playing a huge part in that.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into some Colts talk, isn't there Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the lead-in right there, Mark, from Marshall Mathers, same song and dance. James Boyd, I literally said to Maddie out loud last night on the couch, I cannot believe here I am at 8 o'clock writing Anthony Richardson is hurt story once again. It's just I get the injury, is hopefully something that will not keep him out too long. But same song and dance. I thought that song was excellent right there. Unfortunately, but it was the exact feeling I had when he went down last night. The fact that it's his own fault for that injury probably kind of adds to it. So yeah, it's just it's utterly amazing in the opposite way that here we are, a night that he was supposed to play a quarter and a half, and he exits before the end of the second series.
Yeah, that's where he's headed. He went right to football.
It was a vet move from Kevin.
Yeah.
That was a nice pivot.
You know, I've noticed a very large audience in our YouTube chat. I think we should reward them here on a Friday morning with some actual talk about a Colts football game.
We got 3 hours to do that, but
some people only have 10 minutes in their car on a morning commute.
This is true. But I do like beef.
Yeah.
But on top of what you just said, Kevin, besides, not really honoring Mark and him, not at all. helping you out there with a couple of drinks, it was very on brand. I probably could have written that story. We have written that story, I don't know, 50 different ways since he's been drafted. And like you said, the most damning part is that it was your fault. He mentioned after the game that it was a coverage that he didn't really recognize at first. And for everything I've read, and not saying I've read a ton on this particular play, but seeing what Kurt Warner and others had to say, and more of the former football players that I saw on social media yesterday, they were all saying this was a basic protection, sort of basic day one install type of thing, and he just read it wrong, just missed it completely. And initially, I think I tweeted out, he got hit from his blind side, but I had to go back and watch the play. Like, no, it actually wasn't your blind side. The guy came right at you, and you just didn't see it at all. And so that was unfortunate, but also he's very fortunate in some degree to not have been injured more on that play. And, yeah, just the awkward situation. And watching it live on the couch yesterday, I'm sure you probably did the same thing, Kevin. I just slowed it down to see what happened. And I actually saw it in real time when he got up and ran off the field because I was like, man, his pinky looks a little, messed up. But fortunately for him, it's not broken. It was just dislocated.
But like you said, here we go again. I don't know. I read your stuff this morning, Kevin, and you thought that Daniel Jones had an okay night. I mean, how would you classify his performance last night? That's how I would look at it. It was okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit of part of me that we feel like no one really wants Daniel Jones to start, or at least very few people do. And so it seems like everything's kind of viewed in a really negative scope with him. I thought the final stat line wasn't a true indicator of how he played. I would say probably 3 to 4 drops. Anthony Gould had a couple. There was a couple 50-50 balls that I thought his pass catchers could have helped him out on. I thought Jones, if you compare him maybe to the first 2 weeks in Grand Park, I thought he was a little better. I thought he had several throws where he's hitting guys in stride, allowing for yards after catch. I think that's a key element to the Colts passing offense and something that recent quarterbacks have not done a very good job of, i.e. the one that he's in competition with. But again, more than anything, it's the fact that this was supposed to be Anthony Richardson's night. It ends, and now we're back to this conversation of, okay, now what about Saturday, Sunday, Monday? 3 straight practices at Grand Park. Does Shane Steichen feel the need to change the quarterback plan coming up 6 days from now, or I guess 8 days from now, when they're playing Green Bay inside of Lucas Oil Stadium in that second preseason game? Now, does it become Anthony Richardson, if he's healthy enough, to get the quarter and a half playing time? And then, as James pointed out, it's just the fact that here he is having a misidentification in the preseason. I mean, guys, no one's being exotic in the preseason.
No.
It's not like Baltimore, stayed up until 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night game plan and said, hey, watch this. We haven't used this in 6 years. We're going to bring this out.
Right.
The last 2 times we've played the Colts, we've, made it look like this. Now we're going to disguise it and it's going to look like this. No one's doing that.
And it wasn't on his blind side either.
Right. So it just, when you add all of it up, outside of it being probably a serious injury, it's about as worse of a night as you could have for Richardson because, again, this was supposed to be his chance to really, James, I think, have an opportunity to kind of secure things. And now I would say he's opened that door. And, if you're playing a game of trust, which quarterback do you trust more? I get that probably neither answer makes you sleep totally great at night. But right now, it's probably Daniel Jones.
Yeah, we've talked all offseason about this, and we have gone over the intermediate throws, the short throws, the layups, reading defenses, feeling more comfortable, and he said more relaxed. But then the injury factor is always there with him. And honestly, he just can't be trusted to stay healthy. And I get that, I guess in theory, in a regular season game or a bigger game, perhaps he goes back in there. It's just a dislocated finger. he was mentioning after the game, it was a little bit sore, popped it back in, but just the fact that we're having this conversation is on brand for him. And like I said, I'm very happy that he didn't break his finger because at first it looked horrible watching the replay back. Obviously, fingers aren't supposed to point that direction, but I don't know. And I hear people saying, well, that's on the coach for not having the right offensive lineman in there and all that. But Anthony said it himself. He just didn't read the play right. And that, to me, again, is very, very concerning for someone who's going into year 3. You're supposed to have a great grasp of your offense because it's the same one you've been working with for 3 years. And to your point, Kevin, no one's doing anything exotic. You aren't either. It's very simple. Get the ball out. And he didn't, and it cost him. So 7 snaps last night from Anthony Richardson by my count, and obviously not nearly enough to solidify himself as QB1.
Can we talk about something good, though, real quickly before we get to a break? Tyler Warren looks terrific. He catches the ball. He catches it where he's supposed to be. He seems to find separation. I know some of that scheme, but he seems to have picked up right where he left off in college, JB.
Yeah, I mean, that was never going to be a question for me. He had a couple of big catches. I believe he had a 23-yard reception in the first quarter, I believe, from Daniel Jones. And hands, availability, physicality, run after the catch, you saw all that yesterday.
All right, we will take a quick timeout. We'll give you up to date on everything else that's going on in the world of sports. A lot of Colts talk today. Preseason game number 1 in the books. So many things to get into. We are with the right guys to do it. Kevin Bowen and James Boyd cover the team full time. Mark Dykton, Jeff Rickard with you. We'll continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Fan.
Good morning. You're waking up to a Friday, and this is where we're at with the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson is injured again, James Boyd. Here we are.
Yeah, and additionally, Justin Wally, it was announced by Shane Steichen after the game, will miss the entire season with a torn ACL, the standout rookie from Minnesota who was on track to be a starter. So big blow on the health front for the Colts last night.
Ravens win at 24-16. Of course, preseason score is a little bit incidental. What did you take from that, and 5 things learned in your column this morning, Kevin Bowen?
Well, I think James did a great job pointing out that Justin Wally injury. I mean, that is awful news for a guy that was playing very good football and was probably going to be a starter for you. And right now, your cornerback depth is really getting tested. Things you liked that, Baltimore certainly didn't throw the ball on you really at all. We mentioned Tyler Warren a little bit earlier. Anthony Gould did have a couple of moments in the return game. Things you didn't like, penalty yardage way too high. Your own coverage units got torched on a punt return and a kick return. And I thought the run defense was really poor early in that game, particularly those linebackers, which, again, it's a very unheralded group of guys. So, those were some of the things that stood out. Spencer Schrader's one, doink away from having a really, really good night. You can't rip him too much for hitting one off the upright. James, doesn't it seem like all of his misses have been off the upright?
It does seem like that, but
this offseason,
I gave him some grace. He was one of the guys that I listed. I had to do like a stock report. I still put his stock up 3 for 4 last night.
It was a nice long
with
field goal.
53-yarder to start the day. I thought that he was fine. I can't expect every guy to make every 50-yard kick, but from just to see one go through from 50+ yards was a good sign for him because he hadn't done it in the regular season just yet.
And I know we've come to expect it from Tyler Warren, but it's still nice to see your first-round pick tight end just looking exactly like he did at Penn State. Really good.
And I know one of the plays was called back, but he had 3 catches, 4th if you want to bring up the penalty play, illegal man downfield. Yeah. And I mean, all 4 were different ways to get him the ball. And even watching those 4 plays, if you've been at Grand Park, you see another 3 or 4 different ways they've tried to get him the ball. So it's just another reminder that even in the vanilla preseason, you're going to find 84. You're going to find him in a variety of ways. There were some, yards after catch moments. And I think Joe Wright's pointed out on the broadcast, I love how he's trying to, get some yards after the catch and kind of use that physicality as well. So no worries about Tyler Warren. I thought JT Tuimoloau had a couple moments, a second-round pick out of Ohio State. Did have a knee injury. It sounded like Nate Atkins reported just banged knees there, but he did have to leave early, but doesn't look too severe for him.
My favorite part of the television broadcast is in the second half. They're interviewing some of the players. Cam Bynum just seems giddy to be part of the Indianapolis Colts. I liked hearing that, James Boyd.
Yeah, he's a positive guy.
That was fun. I like hearing guys want to be here and are happy to be here.
I would be happy to be here, too. He got $60 million. He should be smiling for a very long time. I was about to say, if he's unhappy, we got some big issues.
All right. The next up for the Indianapolis Colts, a couple of days of practice, and they will be seen again on the field against the Green Bay Packers, not only enjoying practices next week, Kevin, but also Saturday night over at Lucas Oil. What does the practice schedule look like moving forward?
Yeah, afternoons moving forward, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at Grand Park. I think it's a 4 o'clock start time all 3 of those days. And then, that joint practice with Green Bay coming up on Thursday, the second preseason game a week from Saturday. And if assuming Anthony Richardson is fine, who knows if he I can't imagine tomorrow's practice will be too active. I would think Sunday and Monday would be a little bit more. As long as he's good to go for next week, you have to play him the amount of time you were going to play him last night. Like, you now need to flip the quarterback plan. It was supposed to be Daniel Jones for a quarter and a half against Green Bay. Jones got that last night. It's time for Richardson now, assuming he can stay healthy, to get that.
Would you stick with that plan of Daniel Jones starting against Green Bay?
No. Flip.
Okay, just making sure.
No, yeah. Flip.
Right.
And, again, selfishly, I'd like to see more starters play. I'm not, in the camp that necessarily is like, because you didn't have your tackles out there, Richardson got hurt. No, I mean, clearly that was a misidentification from him. But still, I'd like to see more frontline guys play in that game.
Yeah, also in the preseason last night, Philadelphia over Cincinnati 34-27, but probably the headline there. 2 series and 2 touchdowns for Joe Burrow, and he got right on track again with Jamar Chase. And they've gotten off to slow starts over the last couple of years. And, JB, maybe this is an idea for Zach Taylor to say, hey, let's hit the first game in stride as an offense this year?
Yeah, they're usually a team that starts slow, always in a hole to start the season. So we'll see if they can move to a more positive note, and we'll take it from there.
Raiders and Seahawks ended up in a 23-23 tie. I will also tell you it was a rough night if you stayed up late enough, and I did again. I don't know why, but the Phoenix Mercury all over the Indiana Fever, 95-60. They got behind by double digits early in the game. They got to within 5 in the first half at one point, and then it just kind of started accordion, stretching. But the big news here, Alyssa Thomas of Phoenix becomes the first WNBA player, KB, with 3 straight triple-doubles in their win over the Fever. Fever have now lost 2 straight before they finally come back home to play Chicago on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I would argue the big news is the injury situation for the Fever.
Yeah.
Sydney Colson, that was really ugly. Slipping in front of the Fever bench, left in the injury she exited with. You could hear the audible scream on the broadcast from her. And then Ari McDonald also hurt late in that game. I think it was a right ankle. So you now have your 2 point guards without Caitlin Clark, now both seemingly hurt, not, short-term injuries. I mean, both of them look like they're going to miss time, and there's no break from this West Coast trip. Yeah, they do return home. They actually play 4 or 5 at home, and Connecticut's one road game, and they've been terrible, but I have no idea who the hell the point guard is coming up tomorrow night.
Sophie Cunningham,
against Chicago. Yeah, I mean, you probably have to ask Kelsey Mitchell to handle the ball a little bit more as the primary ball handler. So, again, no way, shape, or form does this mean you need to be rushing Caitlin Clark back, but I have no idea how the medical hardships work. They have used it on a couple of occasions. It almost seems like they need to do that again because their point guard depth chart has no one healthy right now.
All right, shortened schedule in the major leagues yesterday. The Pittsburgh Pirates over the Cincinnati Reds, 7-0. Tough day for the Reds there. Also, Seattle beat the White Sox by a score of 4-3, and the Indianapolis Indians won over at Victory Field against the Omaha Storm Chasers 4-2. They will play again tonight at 7:05. Anything else you want to throw in? More basketball in Puerto Rico yesterday?
IndyCar, Portland coming up Sunday, 3 o'clock. I think Alex Flo can drive like my mother and still clinch the season series. So that will be a storyline you have up there. 3 races left here in the month of August for IndyCar. Flo has won in Portland twice as he tries to get his 9th win of the season.
All right, and Jake will be a part of that broadcast, and that'll be coming your way on Sunday. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the current edition of Checking It Down. Coming up in a moment, we will rehash last night's preseason game number 1 of the Baltimore Ravens and Indianapolis Colts here on 93.5 and 107.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That's what I was asking. Good Friday morning to you. It's the Fan Morning Show along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton. Mark, you made your way out to the golf tournament yesterday. That was a lot of fun as well. Did you have a good time? Did you everything you expected to see?
Great time. Kevin was lighting it up on the longest drive. James was enjoying himself out at the, shaking hands, kissing babies. Yeah, James tends to do.
Can I just say, though, Kevin Bowen undersells himself quite a bit. I heard great stories from some of his former high school teammates when they won the state tournament out there at that golf tournament. Not only did they hold you in high esteem and revere you, but you striped some of those drives. You didn't know I was watching. You striped some of those drives, dude.
Man.
There's a reason that he was on a team that won a state tournament. He can play.
I don't know, Kevin. I feel like I interacted with a couple of your teammates, and they all were haters, which lets me know that they're good teammates. You can't give too much credit here. Revered.
No,
I'm
giving him all kinds of credit.
Nah, I heard a lot of
Venmo to them would do a little bit more in the positive light. Was able to get a couple airborne, but also certainly had a couple of our listeners that outdrove me pretty significantly. So I forget our winner's name, but he hit it 326 yards. And then I actually rode up in the golf cart with him. He then stuffed it to about 3 feet, and that team made eagle on the hole. It was very impressive to watch there. So I should probably remember the dude's name, but he absolutely pounded one.
All right.
Flat tires in the parking lot, too, because everybody that outdrove Kevin, he slashed there.
and I took their beer.
I do have a thank you to Mark Dykton maybe a little bit later.
Okay.
We can get to.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this a little bit later. But it was a great day yesterday. We'll give a shout-out to all the sponsors and talk about some of the stories. But right now, we need to hear some stories from on-site in Baltimore last night. Greg Rakestraw had the play-by-play on with Joe Wrights. And
Wait,
Greg,
he's speaking to us? I swear he was on my TV 6 hours ago.
I know. I fell asleep almost at the very end. I did make it to past the end of the Fever game after that, though. But Greg Rakestraw joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. Good morning, Mr. Rakestraw. What are you working on, about 3 hours of sleep now?
That is a full 4 hours of sleep.
All right.
Thank you very much. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Anthony Richardson, maybe not so great today. I don't think it's going to be a long-term injury from the sounds of it, but what do we know about a dislocated finger today?
That's pretty much about what we know, and that seems to be that's the case and not a break. And so, no official media availability today. Next one is going to be tomorrow. I think originally Shane wasn't scheduled to speak tomorrow. Maybe he will now because of the injury. But again, I think it's shorter term rather than longer term. Maybe this affects the plan as to how much he was going to play this coming Saturday. I'm not sure I'll be ready for that, but I also don't think this is something that should carry into the regular season.
Greg, one thing that will carry on to the regular season, unfortunately, is the injury to Justin Wally, out for the year with torn ACL. How do you think that will impact this team currently and also in the long term, considering the injuries they already have on top of him with Juju Brent and Jalen Jones with their hamstrings?
The big winner right now is Sam Womack. Obviously it went from, being waived by the Niners at the end of last year's training camp to then playing a lot last year for this football team to a guy that we thought might be fighting for a roster spot. And now he's kind of penciled in as a starter. Now, again, we don't know what Juju Brent's status is. We think the hamstring injury to Jalen Jones is relatively severe. But if he's healthy, he's probably your best option of the guys you currently have on the roster. I don't think the Colts will go out and get another cornerback because, again, they've got experienced in terms of depth if guys are healthy. Right now the big winner is Sam Womack, and you hate it for Wally because clearly he was a guy that impressed the Colts before he was drafted and backed that up with how he had played through Tuesday's practice.
That is the voice of Greg Rakestraw. You obviously heard him and Joe Wrights. Great work last night, Rake. Did you and Joe Wrights drive to the airport together this morning?
We are. I'm literally at gate C9 as we speak, and it is a virtual cavalcade of media stars. Both Anthony Calhoun, Andrew Chernoff, and Chris Widlick are all on this plane flight back to Indianapolis together, not to mention so many of our wonderful Colts television crew that we were given the option to come out Monday with the team or come out Wednesday separately. But flew out Wednesday, that meant we had to fly back separately as well. So hence the early morning at BWI instead of landing at Indianapolis at about 2 a.m. last night.
Well, if those TV people aren't A1, A2, and A3 boarding, then what are they really doing with their TV status in this world? Greg,
and some of us forgot to check in until like late last night. So some of us are boarding C47, unfortunately, this morning.
There you go.
I'm going to ruin somebody's day. I think they got this middle seat that's going to be empty. I'm like,
boy.
Sorry, I need to sit there. My apologies.
Hey, it's like you and I riding together to a Notre Dame game. Rake, let's go to the positive category last night. Give me a couple things that you thought stood out in that realm.
Tyler Warren obviously looked the part last night, and he was going to be a feature part of the attack, I think, for the Colts going forward. But just simply put, especially in a short scenario, he's going to play a quarter or two last night. And again, you worry about an injury. But JT Tuimoloau, I thought he was outstanding. Left the game because of a knee issue, and again, we'll see. Long-term, short-term, not exactly sure what that's going to be yet. And it shows you kind of the depth of the Colts feel they have at the defensive end spot, that he was getting significant reps, kind of later into the game. But I thought last night was a really good night for the Colts' first 2 draft picks.
Assuming the Richardson injury does not keep him out here, and again, they practice Saturday through Monday, Thursday a joint practice, Green Bay preseason game a week from Saturday. Assuming he's not out this week, Rake, don't you have to flip the quarterback situation now?
Yes.
Like now Richardson will get the quarter and a half of time that Daniel Jones was supposed to get in the Green Bay game, but ended up getting last night?
Absolutely. Again, all depending on is he healthy enough to go this Saturday. But yes, you have to give him that level of playing time. If not this Saturday, then the following Saturday against the Bengals.
Greg Rakestraw joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline this morning. He had the call with Joe Wrights on TV last night for the Colts' 24-16 loss to the Ravens, and, of course, the Richardson injury. What do we think of Spencer Schrader last night? What was the talk after the game?
Mostly good. I mean, you missed the one long one, but if you're going to make 3 field goals in your first game as the guy, that's pretty impressive. So, we had this stat last night, and it's very unique. Obviously, you can have it kind of at that position. He played in 4 NFL games last year for 3 different teams. That's got to be the answer to a trivia question someplace, right? But again, he looked good in camp with the Colts last year. 3 out of 4, you can settle for that most games. So I thought Schrader looked the part last night.
Rake, last one I have for you, but the first pass of that game was intercepted by Alex Johnson. So what'd you think of the play and also the opportunity that young man might have considering the injuries to the cornerback room and what he's fighting for?
Well, again, you said it. Frankly, I'm sure there were many position battles in terms of guys making the roster going into camp. I would have pointed to probably the backup linebackers. I'm like, hey, there's kind of an open competition there. Maybe for like one extra defensive lineman at most, maybe for a last offensive lineman. But like at running back and at tight end and even at wide receiver especially, like I kind of have an idea who those guys are going to be that's going to be on the roster. Cornerback, you didn't think that was going to be the case, but now because of injuries, it just might be. So Alex was a guy that was on the practice squad most of last year. But when he last played at UCLA, he had 5 picks his senior season. And so maybe there's something there. So for those guys that are third string on a roster at this point, you are simply trying to showcase your skills either for this team to make a practice squad or for somebody else. Good on that young man for taking advantage of the opportunity last night.
Greg, one more question for you. I know he's a 7th-round draft pick. I know it's a preseason game, but did I see Hunter Waller wearing the green dot on his helmet in a preseason game as a rookie 7th-round pick?
They think very highly of him. And Lara had a great nugget about that on the broadcast last night, where he ended up playing in 3 different defensive schemes in his days at Wisconsin. So he's just kind of used to quick change and sudden change. Obviously, he had the 2 picks in the practice on Tuesday, one of those against Lamar Jackson. Played a lot last night because you weren't going to play either Nick Cross or Cam Byram in last night's game. So good on Hunter, and he just seems like one of those guys because they have listed him at both linebacker and safety. They will figure out a role for him to get on the field, and you kind of back that up with what he's done so far this week.
Well, get on that plane, and good luck to everybody there. We appreciate you. Travel safe coming home, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas.
There he is, Greg Rakestraw, TV voice of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us early on a Friday morning on his way back to Indianapolis. And quick question for you, KB. Hunter Waller's been a nice story in camp. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought Probably a little bit of a mixed bag from last night. Again, I thought the run fits were really poor in the first half.
He missed a tackle there early on for a touchdown.
He was a part of some of those big runs with Baltimore. Really, a lot of them, it seemed like, were to the right side as well. Just a note, in case anyone wasn't out there with a pen and paper trying to jot down everything. James, I counted about a half a dozen Colts Week 1 starters. And again, I say that a little bit in quotes, but Richardson, Warren, Bortolini, Gonzalez on offense. That's Tanner Bortolini, Matt Gonzalez, center and right guard. Again, Richardson up in the air, obviously. So about 4 on offense, and then on defense, maybe 2, 3. Kwity Paye and Latu played a series, then they exited, and then Cam McGrone. Right now at linebacker, he is listed as a starter. Jalen Carlisle is dealing with an ankle injury, so we'll see how that plays out the rest of the month. So, 6, 7 starters, and again, I say that, a little bit up in the air. But that was how the Colts decided to approach last night.
Yep, and of course they'll be off today, and they'll get back to work and some afternoon practices next week, including a joint practice with the Green Bay Packers. And we move along, JB, and we see if guys continue to grow. And I don't know what the immediate future for Anthony Richardson is. If it's a dislocation and no tendons were really badly injured, then it's probably really sore for a few days, and he'll probably be back in the saddle soon. But it's just always, if it's not one thing, the old Rosanna Dan, if it's not one thing, it's another with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, he's injury prone. That's the reality of his 2+ years in the league. Even looking at this offseason, he was injured in the spring, got injured last night. Now, I'm not saying he perhaps can't flip that narrative a bit, but objectively speaking, he's been an injury prone player. And that has been, more than anything, the inaccuracy, the immaturity, that has been the biggest knock on him throughout his first 2 seasons, that he just cannot be available. And we've talked about it on this show, and I feel like others have probably talked about it at home. But when we talk about the quarterback competition, a big reason Daniel Jones came here was because he was banking on the fact that Anthony Richardson cannot stay healthy and he's inaccurate. The first one has already been true to a certain extent, and it's giving him an opportunity to gain some ground in his quarterback competition. Now, I will preface all that by saying I don't think Anthony's had a major injury, and I actually thought that during the game because, and I'm not an expert here, but had he broken his finger, I think the reaction would have been a lot more outward. He was kind of muted on the sideline, wasn't really, freaking out. I saw some fans tweeting at me, and those even in attendance, like I think Chris Whitlick was mentioning, like he threw on the sideline a bunch, just didn't go back in the game. So it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but I can't blame anyone if they look at Anthony and say, we can't trust this guy to stay healthy, because they haven't been able to say that at all throughout his career. And really, if you date back to his high school days, he's never really been a healthy player. Going back to high school, he had an AC joint. At, I want to say, Florida, he had a knee surgery, also had hamstring issues, and then obviously the NFL, he's had a litany of things. So we'll see if that can change, but I'm not so sure it will.
Well, James, it comes back to the question for me: who do you trust more if you're Shane Steichen?
Which is such a loaded question, seriously.
Right, and let's go to the play that Anthony Richardson got hurt on. And yes, if you look at that play, you did have a rookie at right tackle. You did have a rookie at tight end. You did have a rookie at running back. And you had Tanner Bortolini, who now is getting kind of his first real starting experience. So clearly, Richardson was not on the same page with any of them. If you watch the entire offense operate, they all are operating in one manner, and Richardson's doing something totally different. And he took blame after the game for not identifying that pre-snap. So even if you want to just say, well, Richardson's, he's glass and he can't stay healthy, et cetera, Shane Steichen has to look at it from a football sense too and say, guys, I couldn't trust him on that play. What if that's a strip sack?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a miracle he held onto the football. That is a turnover in your own territory in the first quarter of a game against a team that's better than you.
On the road, too. I mean,
that's over at that point. I mean, when you play percentages of football games and you have that type of mistake, it's over. And, this gets into, I think, a debate that, Chris Ballard over the last few months, James, has talked about. Now, maybe we shouldn't have played Richardson, early on, and, hindsight's 20/20 with that, et cetera. But it's like some of these game reps, let's say he starts week 1. That'll be his 16th career start in the NFL. That's not even a full season.
Right.
So it's like, this is what's so difficult with Richardson. It's like, Does he learn that play, that protection, that hot read? Does he learn that in a meeting room? Or does he need to be on the field for the ugly, harsh reality that he suffered last night to truly learn it?
Yeah, because he put his hand on the hot burner last night, and he hopefully learns not to do that again. But again,
do you learn that Monday through Saturday, taking notes in a dim room with a bunch of quarterbacks, or do you have to Jeff's analogy, touch the stove? I mean, that's where I just think it's so difficult with him. But to me last night, Daniel Jones took a lead. And I don't know if it's all due to Richardson's injury, but how the play unfolded too. If you're Shane Steichen, you can't overlook that.
To that point, Indiana Injuries tweets at us this morning, as frustrating as AR has been for fans, imagine how the coaching staff feels. Maybe he doesn't miss any time with this one, but how can Shane even trust his weekly game plan knowing AR might not be able to execute it mentally, let alone stay on the field?
What does that account?
I was going to say, what?
It's called Indiana Injuries. Probably started for this very reason.
Boy, that sounds like a dark life.
Yeah, so we actually
has that market corner.
I was going to say, definitely
Will
like to hear from
Carroll,
him. Getting our Wills mixed up. It's okay. We'll throw Will Smith in there too, Mark. But in all seriousness, here's what Anthony Richardson had to say
on that
about
side of the console, okay?
Here's what Anthony Richardson had to say about the play and his perspective on it.
Yeah, I definitely looked at it. That's a tricky one because it's 5-man pro, and I'm hot from the backside. I just got to get my eyes, just be able to, react to that. But just 5-man pro, just playing hot. I just got to be on my P's and Q's when it comes to that.
You watch the play too, and DJ Giddens, for example, his head kind of turns around. He realizes it, and I think he is expecting it.
He's supposed to get the ball
to come to him pretty quickly. Ashton Doolin, for example, also, and Richardson looks left at the start of that play. As soon as he sees that end drop, that has got to be a huge antenna of like, oh, whoa, something's happening here. I should at least scan and get to that backside, and he obviously didn't there. So, part of me is like, should we dissect his 2 of 3 night? I mean, I guess the one incompletion he was late on, it was 3rd and 7. I didn't love that play at all. That to me is kind of, hey, 3rd and 7 in field goal range, you just eat it. If you're late over the middle of the field on a 3rd and 7,
yeah,
it's not going to end well. But part of me is like, Kevin, don't over dissect 3 passes in a preseason game. But again, welcome to life of Anthony Richardson. We have to get into the weeds in such a small sample size, and it's equally as exhausting as it is beyond frustrating for that coaching staff.
I'm just watching this again and again and again, and he just never sees the guy coming, and it wasn't from his blind side either. And he just missed the play completely, James. That's all there is to it. Just missed it.
Yeah, you can't miss that. If you want to be a starter in the NFL, you want to be the guy, can't miss that. So, again, fortunately, he didn't have like a head injury because he got rocked on that play. And honestly, would you prefer to have a dislocated pinky versus being concussed or something like that? But glad he got back up. Glad that it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. And we'll see where we go when we get back out there to Grand Park tomorrow, because they do go right back into, a pretty, I guess, rigorous schedule. I would imagine they scale it back some tomorrow, but 3 straight practices out there getting the heat. And I think that will tell us a lot about, 1, how his hand is doing, and then 2, what their plan is when it comes to, the joint practices and also the second preseason game against the Green Bay Packers, who Mark loves.
Anybody else under the radar that you liked last night or that made an impression on you, James?
I thought Joe Bacci had a pretty good night from a coverage standpoint. I don't think any of the linebackers really looked that good in the run schemes or run fits. I thought that Cameron McGrone actually took a pretty big step back, and I was honestly wondering, like, man, is this a position they're going to look back and say we should have invested more here, because I didn't trust any of those guys when it comes to run stoppage yesterday, and the Ravens weren't doing anything really, crazy. They were just running it down their throat. But on a positive note, I thought Joe Bacci, again, when it comes to playing in space, making plays on the ball, he's been able to do that throughout training camp. He did it again on I think it was the 3rd stringer for the Ravens. But nevertheless, I mean, you play who's in front of you, and he had a nice pick over there in the middle.
Yeah, if you watch the start of the game, I'll go to a corner that I know we mentioned late in yesterday's show. And again, the just awful news of Justin Wally tearing his ACL in that Tuesday joint practice with the Ravens. Now that precious 3rd cornerback job is back, I would say, open. Jalen Jones currently out with a hamstring injury. Juju Brent's currently out, the hamstring injury. You saw Alex Johnson, number 35, pick off Cooper Rush. I think that was the old supposed to be back shoulder throw to the front shoulder. And Johnson made a great play in the air on it. He also had a nice pass deflection a little bit later in the game on a third down. And again, it's not a household name right now, but week 1, when Miami will certainly test you from a cornerback depth standpoint, it's one of the better pass-catching groups you'll probably see this season. Somebody's got to play big minutes not named Charvarius Ward and Kenny Moore.
Right.
So who is that? Is it going to be Jalen Jones back healthy? Is it going to be Juju Brents back healthy? We are now under a month away from the regular season opener. Alex Johnson, undrafted 2 years ago for the Giants. I mentioned that because the Colts brought over one of the Giants' secondary coaches in the offseason. Johnson also comes over here. And again, he has kind of been a fringe first or second unit guy here throughout camp. So I know by no means is it household, and it's not discussing Anthony Richardson or Tyler Warren's night, but you could see him potentially not only making the roster, but playing a role here early in the season.
All right, last night, 24-16, the Ravens get the win in the preseason. Of course, we're talking about all the individual performances and evaluations, and I'm sure that there was a lot of film and tape being watched by the coaching staff after the game last night, and we'll probably get more information. When do you guys meet with the coaching staff? When do you hear from Shane Steichen again? Do we know?
Well, he isn't supposed to speak tomorrow.
Sunday is his scheduled day.
Right,
but
he might speak.
Yeah, it did
tomorrow.
mention, could speak after practice tomorrow. So, yeah, it's just supposed to be assistant coaches after tomorrow's practice, but who knows if Shane will provide an update on where things are at with Anthony Richardson. It looked like he was gripping a football. I saw Anthony Calhoun have that video running off the field afterwards, so we'll see. He mentioned after the game, swollen, expects to be a little bit more sore today when he wakes up. But we'll see how much he can practice Saturday, Sunday, and Monday before Tuesday and Wednesday off days.
All right, we'll get your reaction. Take the pulse of Colts Nation coming up in a moment here at 239-1070. You want to call in, tell us what you saw, what you thought, who you liked, who impressed you, all those kinds of things. It's preseason game number 1 in the books. We'll talk about it next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
KB, JB, and Jeff.
Anthony Richardson goes out of the gun ball in the near hash, backs to throw, and he is decked from the left, and he is sacked and buried. He took a big-time hit, but more importantly, hangs on to the football, and the Ravens with a sack off the left edge.
And he's going off the field, Matt. He got hit unabated. There was no one blocking. The protection was totally not there. You can't have your quarterback take that shot.
And like you said, Anthony Richardson is out of the game. That was a wicked hit.
Yeah, no, it was weird. He hit me, then I was trying to make sure I had the ball, and I just looked down, and I see my finger different direction. I'm like, maybe I'm tripping. And I looked at it again, and it was definitely like that. So I got to get this thing popped back in place, but I'm good, though.
Yeah, dislocation. They popped it back in right now, day to day. See where it goes. He's feeling all right. You know what I mean? It's a dislocation. They pop back in. I mean, we'll see, where it goes.
Same song and dance. Damn girl, everywhere I go.
It's one of those things. If the finger, again, no tendons or anything or ligaments get torn in that finger, you do just kind of pop it back in place. It's sore and swollen for a couple of days, and then you move on. You hope that that's what it is. But it's also, you think of these guys sometimes that'll the shoulder will get dislocated, and you'll watch them put their own shoulder back in place. Like, some of these guys are crazy with their injuries, man.
Yeah, he was not doing that yesterday, and he will be wise not to do so. The only thing I was thinking of, Kevin, on top of just the injury itself, is just how, of all the positions that need your fingers, his is, outside of the center position, probably the most demanding when it comes to using all of your digits.
Right.
And
it's on the throwing hand.
Exactly. I was thinking if it was, I've seen this happen before. I want to say a couple years ago, Bobby Okereke, I forget where we were at. It was a road game, and I think he actually broke his pinky finger. And it came through the skin or something like that, and they just stitched it back up, put it all together, and they taped it up. He's a linebacker. It's is what it is. I'm fine. Before quarterback, it matters so much more. So, in theory, you hope that it is a minor injury, but I would imagine the Colts are extra cautious because it just means so much to his success, just having all his fingers work properly. And you never really know. I would imagine he undergoes an MRI, X-ray, something like that to make sure. For sure that nothing is, unlike what it seems. I remember last year being in the locker room, talking to Jelani Woods, and I'm not saying this will be Anthony Richardson's case, but for Jelani, it was like a toe thing. And in the moment, Jelani told me, I don't think it's a big deal. I'll be fine. And then a couple days later, I'm out for the season. Now, I'm not saying that's Anthony at all for those listening, but you always have to, get the MRI and kind of take it from there.
By the way, shout out Jelani Woods. Couple catches late in the game last night. Yeah. It was good to see him just purely healthy. I still think he's got a pretty steep mountain to climb to make the team, but he did have a moment or two late in that game. Yeah, just one more I'll add on Richardson before we move on. Anytime he leaves a game due to injury, it's obviously the headline, given who he is, given his injury history, all of that. The more I looked at last night, you hear Richardson talk about the play itself after the game. How the injury occurred is the most damning element of last night. He dislocated his pinky finger on a hit that he didn't see coming. A large percentage of NFL players would probably suffer that same injury. It's more of it was his own fault in misidentifying something that pre-snap is supposed to be rather elementary for NFL quarterbacks. That's the damning issue for me. Again, it comes down to a trust factor. In the preseason, where things are as vanilla as a McDonald's ice cream cone, you don't process that. You don't see that. And there's rookies on that offense, i.e. a rookie running back who's a fifth-round pick who had pass-catching issues exiting college. He knew what was going on. That, to me, is the bigger issue of who do you trust when it gets real? Because every single NFL team now sees that play last night. Colts are on NFL Network. Everybody's going to watch that. Everyone's going to see that, and they're going to say, how do we make that even more exotic when it's real, when we're actually trying to create havoc for you? I think that is more of the damning issue from last night. You want to be super positive about it, super optimistic. You can say, oh, great. He now sees that. He'll learn from it, et cetera, et cetera. Fine and well. You can go there if you want, but on August 7th, in year 3 of the NFL, you don't want your franchise quarterback, your starting quarterback, to have that big of a misidentification that ends up knocking him out of a game that he desperately needed those reps.
I wouldn't even call it a misidentification. He just missed it completely. As you point out, it's a vanilla defense. It's a guy coming off the edge, There wasn't a blocker. The way the play was called to account for the guy who hit him, number 90, I forget who it was, that got him. It wasn't on his blind side, and he just got completely clocked and missed the whole thing entirely. I don't even think it was a misidentification, James. He just missed it.
I mean, I feel like that's just semantics. Misidentification, missed it, misnomer. What other words can we use?
But
miscue.
To Kevin's point, I'm backing up the fact that it was just a damning play.
Absolutely. I mean, no one's going to argue that. But, yeah, he certainly missed something because getting lit up like that is not ideal in a preseason setting. But also that's why you play the games. I know we talked a lot about the progress Anthony has made with some of the shorter and intermediate throws. And first couple of throws he had last night were fine, I thought. But it's the physicality that, honestly, it's kind of confounding with him because he's such a uniquely built athlete, and he looks like he should be indestructible, but he isn't. And so anytime there is live hitting, that will always be an element that is probably beneficial for the Colts to evaluate him. Now, I don't say beneficial in the stance of him getting hurt, but you got to know if the guy can hold up. And if he can't, then there's your answer on who's going to be your starting quarterback, and it won't be him. It'll be Daniel Jones or somebody else. So we'll see from there. I am curious, though, Kevin, not to really push back on your idea of flip-flopping the starters and the reps. I'm just curious how it looks over the next few days and if that changes anything. You know, if, for example, they go into the joint practice and they get the looks that they want to, do they stick with the plan that they had because that's what they said from the beginning, or do they – go to both guys and say, hey, this is what happened? Because I don't know, for example, if the second preseason game there was going to be a different approach for, starters versus non-starters, or what Daniel Jones' role was going to be. Was it fair to him in his QB competition to be thrown right into the game, on the second drive, whatever the case may be? Maybe I'm getting too into the weeds with that, but I do wonder if that is like a quick pivot for them, or is it something they contemplate and just say, well, you had your chance and you didn't really capitalize on it, so now you gotta see what you do in the joint practices. We'll stick with our plan.
Yeah, let's expand on that. Again, the original preseason plan was Richardson a quarter and a half last night.
Yep.
Jones get the end of the first half, and then that would flip a week from Saturday, week 2 of the preseason, Green Bay. Jones would get the quarter and a half. Richardson would then get the last bit of that second quarter. And if you just look at the pure playing time last night, it was the reverse of that due to the injury.
Right.
Jones ended up getting about a quarter and a half of action, and Richardson got, 7 plays, you said, James?
Yeah.
So I would just flip that here coming up on. Do you punish Anthony Richardson? If you want a real competition, which I guess that now is a topic we probably should have to bring up again, but just for a second here. If you want this competition to be real, then to me, you need to flip it. Richardson needs to get the quarter and a half against Green Bay. Now, having said that, let's say Anthony Richardson misses. Let's call it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, this coming weekend, when they have the 3 straight days of practice. And whatever, Daniel Jones continues to show
consistency,
positive moments for you. Then I don't think it will creep into Shane Steichen's mind, but does anything get into the Shane Steichen mind of, hey, should we just commit to this dude? Jones, that is.
Right.
Should we give him the starting reps in the joint practice with Green Bay? Should we then play him in the quarter and a half of the preseason game? Is there any part to Shane where now he looks at it, and this goes back to a conversation we had in March. What I didn't love about this whole quarterback competition, I got it, but what I didn't love about it is you have 2 bad and or inconsistent quarterbacks, and you're giving them inconsistent reps.
Right.
How in the hell do either of them get better?
So here's my question to kind of piggyback off of that. Does it matter optically if you start Anthony Richardson twice in the preseason?
I don't think so. I mean, no, I don't.
I was just curious about it.
Because I don't think anybody looks at last night like, wow, that was a positive night for Richardson. I mean, last night to me.
I just meant he's the first guy out there. Does that matter at all? I don't think it necessarily does
I guess it goes down in the stat sheet at some point. But no, that's really it. And you know what? I might be in the minority, but I thought Daniel Jones was a little better than okay last night. I thought people were just like, man, the Colts quarterbacks were awful. And I'm like, well, I mean, Jones, he had probably 4 drops against him.
Yeah.
And
he also had some throws that he probably wishes he had back.
Sure.
But it was also a Daniel Jones experience to me.
In a live atmosphere, I thought there were probably 4 or 5 very in-stride, well-thrown balls that allowed some dudes to create yards after catch. I thought one of his better plays was a 2nd and 7 where he's getting pressure. He rolls to his left.
It was a nice throw.
It looks like it's either going to be a throwaway or maybe a sack. He avoids that and finds Ashton Doolin for a big play.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Jones can do that, like, Matt Ryan can't do. If you want to go back to that, of like
yeah, I don't want to go
the
back to
ability
2022.
to not only keep a play alive, but when you get into the, hey, we're now playing a little sandlot football, can you make a play? So, again, the Daniel Jones bar I'm using here to say he was a little bit – I think he was a little bit better than what I've seen through the first 9 practices at Grand Park, I guess is what I'm getting at.
All right, your chance to sound off on what you saw last night and your thoughts moving forward with another Anthony Richardson injury, slight as it might be. Let's go to the phone lines, 239-1070. Ray joins us this morning on a Friday after a Colts game. Ray, what were your thoughts after last night?
Hey, fellas, good morning. How's it going?
Good. What's up?
You can't do anything but help but to laugh. Well, at least for me. Anthony Richardson, and I'm an Anthony Richardson believer, but he reminds me of. Let me just use this analogy. When you're in high school and you go to a girl's house and you're kissing her and she tells you no and she just leaves you on second base. And it's like that's what it is with Anthony Richardson. He keeps leaving us on second base. He keeps leaving but what if? And the narrative's out. The injury narrative's out, and I'm questioning if he realizes his significance to the town, the city, and the franchise. Now, I get it's the pinky, but it's just an unfortunate situation. Like me, I equate it to just a football thing, but when you're the quarterback, it's amplified times 1,000 when those types of things happen, and you have to come out the game. We can say it's preseason, but the narrative's out that you can't finish games, that you're often injured, and then come out again and you're injured. So the narrative's out. But for me, I believe Anthony Richardson has to start, regardless of how Daniel Jones looks in this preseason, because you can't go into this season and put Daniel Jones out there and then still have the question about Anthony Richardson. So for me, you have to get an answer to the Anthony Richardson project, regardless of how it looks. You have to get an answer, and you can't go in with an unknown. And we're saying, putting right back in this position next year, and you're saying, well, we're going to give him this year, and then it's just a ripple effect. So regardless, when this guy gets healthy and you feel like he's sufficient enough to put back on the field, you have to put him out there. There's no other way around it. You have to get an answer to the test. Plain and simple. That's the way I see it.
So what do you do, Ray?
Get it together.
What do you do, Ray, if he misses, like he has to miss the Green Bay game, and Daniel Jones looks good? Then what do you do?
Regardless, you still have to get an answer at some point. You have to see the work the guy has put in. Now I get. Now, are you really giving Daniel Jones a fair shot? But if Richardson bottoms out, then you can slide Jones in. That's just the way I look at it.
Ray, could you? I didn't get to second base clearly many times ever. Can you go over the bases again for me? There is first base. Are we hugging at that point? Is it a high five? Is it kind of the awkward like should I hug her? Should I not? Can you go over the base? And Mark will have the dump button ready if we need to.
Yeah.
Well, from what I know, first base is, you're getting her number, you're hugging on her, you're giving her good conversation,
okay.
And, she's feeling you, you're feeling her.
Okay.
Keep this PG, Ray.
Right,
Keep it PG.
Okay, and then you said second base was kissing a little?
Yes,
okay.
Second base may be a little kissing, French kissing.
That's as far as we
should
need
we
to
stop
go.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, we should stop there. Ray, thank you for the call, brother. Yeah, I thought that was, it's like popping in that VHS in 6th grade when all of a sudden we all had to watch.
When they separated the boys from the girls, and we all came out with different people.
Boy, that was squeamish to say the least. That was squeamish.
Mark is crazy.
Ray, excellent call. I don't even know if Richardson's gotten to second base on the old football analogy, but I did have to smile at that. I'll say this. I could not agree more on Ray's overall premise, though, of just get to an answer. Get to an answer. We cannot be sitting here August 8th of 2026 asking, do you think Anthony Richardson's the guy or not? No. Just get to an answer.
I agree with this.
That's the biggest part of this season.
To a certain extent, though. And I'm not even saying Ray is wrong. I am probably on that side of things. But the question I always have in the back of my mind, I think we all are kind of like this to a certain degree, or maybe I'm just shallow. When does your self-preservation kick in? Because if I'm that front office, if I am the head coach, if I'm Shane Steichen, and there's an inkling in the back of my mind like, man, this dude cannot stay healthy, I need to jump ship. And I got to get somebody in there that is at least going to be available for me and be consistent from that standpoint, from just being on the field. Yeah. So that is what I always think of with Anthony is, can you stay healthy enough to where people still feel like they can kind of throw you a little bit of a rope? And I know Chris Ballard has backed this man to no end, but when does that self-preservation kick in? Because we all like to stay employed. And to do so, do you just think, forget it. I'm just going to put the guy in who I think is going to, win the most games and be the most available to do so.
Yeah, and that's where the three voices of the organization, James, you might argue they're all in different timelines. Carly Ursay-Gordon obviously is thinking big picture.
Yeah, she ain't going nowhere.
You would think with the resume that Chris Ballard has, he's clinging onto that life raft like no other. And then Shane Steichen's kind of like somewhere in between. It's like, well, yeah, I was part of the team that drafted Richardson, but, I've been 500 as a coach. It's not horrific. So It's like, that's where, is everyone tied together? Is everyone not tied together? Who the hell knows?
Well, it's going to be a really interesting 10 days for the Indianapolis Colts.
Now, Mark, what is
that's
third?
For sure.
What happens at third base?
I thought third base was still over the pants.
Stop!
What?
Stop!
We're educating. God, dog, man.
I was always confused.
Kids on their way to school right now. Come on.
Hey, we're an educational show here, the Birds and the Bees, baby.
Ray went love doctor on us there.
Yeah.
That was a good analogy. I did the eye doctor analogy last week. You guys actually said that was one of my few good ones.
It was.
And then I heard Ray right there, and I'm like, damn.
Home was, we know what home was, but I don't,
Yeah, Jeff over here.
Maybe we'll start
about to sweat.
Maybe we'll start a live show online after the show. We can discuss such things.
I'm afraid the best I was doing was moving runners over back in the day.
James just got done talking about self-preservation. I'm looking at self-preservation right now.
we can save that for the podcast.
Man, y'all got Jeff so nervous up in here, boy.
Jeff's sweating more than I was on the 15th
right,
tee
good
yesterday
Lord.
at the Legends.
I don't know. Jeff was in pants in 92-degree heat. I don't know how you
Well, do we have another phone call right now? 239-1070. I see you answering another
Are we
one
up
there.
against it, or you want to do
No,
another phone
we're
call?
good.
Okay,
Real quick.
Matt or Billy?
Let's go talk to Matt real quick on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Good morning, Matt. How you doing? Matt, you there?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I just had a comment on the Richardson and Daniel thing. I think it's as simple as this. Is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson competing, and that's all great. But if you listen to what they're saying, it's a competition. They're not in a hurry to let it play out. They're going to let it play out. Anthony Richardson blows them away. He's a starter. Everybody looks great, and it works. But if he doesn't, and he's mediocre, Daniel Jones is starter, because you can't put Anthony Richardson in as the start of the season, bench him, and never really bring him back. So it's really Anthony Richardson's job to lose if he looks great. If he doesn't, you go with Daniel Jones, because you can always bring AR in later. And he can sit and watch Daniel Jones a bit, and that's how they can couch it to say, hey, Daniel Jones outplayed him, but Anthony Richardson's going to learn from the bench. And then when Daniel Jones doesn't get his job done, Anthony Richardson comes in. You can't do it the other way, because once you put Anthony Richardson in, you can't bench him and bring him back.
Matt, appreciate the phone call. Thanks for hanging on there. So, Kevin, let's go down that road for a second. Talking about a guy in his third season now in the NFL at quarterback. How many more times do you put him on the bench and let him try to learn? He's been learning from the injury, from the training room so far, hasn't he?
I think I said to you guys maybe a few months ago, is the true winner of this quarterback competition the guy who actually loses it in the month of August? I mean, won't we be clamoring for whoever the backup is right away?
I want to say Mark was on this train very early and tooting the horn.
How about this?
The most popular quarterback in town is usually the backup.
I don't know if this poll will necessarily resonate, but I'll say to you guys, hopefully it makes sense. Does the second string quarterback in week 1 end the season as the starting quarterback? Does the week 1 backup end up starting the final game of the season? Like, does it feel inevitable to you if Richardson starts the season, it'll eventually go to Jones and stay with Jones, and then vice versa? If it starts with Jones, does it feel inevitable it'll go to Richardson? Like, do you really see one quarterback for 17 straight weeks?
No, my only pushback
would be injury.
Yes, I was going to say for the Anthony part, you can't tell me he's going to start the last game of the season because actually I just thought about this in a moment. He hasn't started the last game of any season so far.
What do you think the over-under is on starts that Anthony Richardson makes this year?
Dave says first base is kissing, second base is under the third base.
Time to check it down, Mark Dykton. We'll get back to the Colts coming up in a second here.
Hold on, I was learning something.
Over-under Richardson starts.
We need to all see if we're all on the same base, coverage.
You know, this is
that's an in the break discussion, Mark.
As a utility man.
And then just out of curiosity, what's the double play?
Okay. You bring a friend, I think.
Okay.
Oh,
just curious.
It honestly doesn't sound like a win-win. 11 starts for Richardson last year, and then 2 for benching, right?
Yeah.
James. So he missed 4 games due to injury last year.
Yes.
So that means you would set last year. He could have started 13 games.
Right.
With the 2 that bench. So I don't know. Over under 11.5. What are you taking?
Based on what I saw and what I've seen and what I feel, it feels like under. Because I do agree with you on the one thing right now.
Does Vegas have this, Mark? Can you look this up while you're looking up the bases? A couple tabs here, Mark, along with the Mondo tab.
I'll probably take the over because
over 11.5. Oh,
yeah, and the reason I say that is because the majority of his missed games throughout his career so far, the 17 due to injury, I believe it was 13, if I'm not mistaken, or actually 12 from his rookie season.
So what's
with
actually
the shoulder.
The question I'm looking at?
So unless he has a major injury,
over under,
it's probably going to be Richardson. I don't know. Hopefully, just a couple of games absence if he misses any time at all.
All right, we'll talk about that coming up in a minute. Very quickly, we'll check things down. We'll get right back into Colts talk. 239-1070 number to call. Mark, hit it.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
24-16, Colts lose to the Ravens on the road last night. Preseason game number 1. Anthony Richardson, 2 of 3, left the game with a dislocated pinky on his throwing hand. Says he should be okay. Didn't think it was a big deal. We'll find out more a little bit later on today. But you kind of liked what you saw from Daniel Jones in relief of him last night.
Compared to what we have seen from Daniel Jones so far, I thought last night was fine. Again, he wasn't aided by any means from a pass-catching standpoint. I counted probably 4 drops when he played quarterback. I thought a couple nice balls in stride to some guys, allowing them to make plays after the catch. Again, by no means are you overly pleased with it, but all things considered, I thought it was fine. I didn't really think there were many turnover type balls that he threw, got away with a bunch of risky plays. So, yeah, I thought it was fine.
Anything else that you take away other than the injury last night to Anthony Richardson?
Justin Wally, he's out for the season. He was going to be most likely your 3rd starting cornerback, and now he's out with a torn ACL, unfortunately. So that's a big blow to a cornerback room that is already banged up with Juju Brents and Jalen Jones both currently being sidelined with hamstring injuries. So we'll see what happens there.
I do have to interject. It does sound like we've had a few fathers in the car reached out with some children in the car, and they're confused that we're Anthony Richardson's playing 2 different sports, baseball and football here. So I think we have confused some
people. Didn't he play
here.
baseball as a high school kid? I think he was a baseball.
I do not know that.
Doing Deion Sanders stuff.
I was going to say Deion for sure, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan played baseball and basketball.
There you go.
2-sport athlete.
Right, indeed.
Yeah.
Apologies for the confusion there.
Yeah, there you go. Also, Colts now have a day off. They'll get back to practices and joint practices coming up next week against Mark's favorite team, the Green Bay Packers.
Come on.
So we look forward to seeing how that thing rolls out.
The Packers coming to town. The Cubs are playing the Cardinals. This is not a good week for me.
That's all right. Just turn that hate up a little bit, and you'll be just fine.
Shane Steichen, you need a motivational speech. You put me out there before that joint practice. Those boys will be running through brick walls.
That would be hilarious.
Indiana Fever had a rough night last night. They lose big time by 35 at Phoenix, 95-60. It's the 9th straight game that we have not seen Caitlin Clark, and I was doing some more research on that last night, and it sounds more and more like we're talking about a grade 2 problem with that groin injury, which is usually 4 to 8 weeks. That's kind of the time frame we seem to be looking at, James, at this point in time.
What research did you do?
Just looking up a lot of stuff online with medical stuff.
I'm like, man, we don't know anything about her status.
WebMD.
I was about to say, man.
But you start asking people that know these injuries and how long is the timeline for this kind of injury or that kind of injury, and it just starts to feel like something that's a 4 to 8 week injury. I mean, we're coming up on 4 weeks right now.
Yeah, so she's currently out, and they also had some injuries last night that are a bit concerning and could keep some people sidelined for a while. Ari McDonald, I believe, left the game with an ankle injury, and then Sydney Colson also left the game with a knee injury. Natasha Howard actually got hit in the face in the game as well and left. That might have been more just because of the score and things like that. But the two big injuries, Ari McDonald, Sydney Colson, what does that mean for your point guard group, especially with Caitlin Clark being sidelined as well?
Yeah, Alyssa Thomas, though, did make some WNBA history for the Mercury. First player to have 3 consecutive triple-doubles. So last night she had 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. The Fever back on the court at home Saturday night, 8 p.m. tip against the Chicago Sky. Major League Baseball, tough night for Cincinnati Reds. They lost to Pittsburgh 7-0. Shortened schedule. Also saw the White Sox lose to the Mariners. Everybody else was off. Indianapolis Indians beat the Omaha Storm Chasers last night. They're back at Victory Field tonight at 7:05. Kevin, anything else you want to throw in?
Yeah, Portland IndyCar race coming up. 3 to go. Alex Blow, again, he can drive like my grandma and probably win the points race here. So 3 o'clock Sunday out there in Oregon. Milwaukee and Nashville left. They'll take a week off and then have those two to round out August to close out the month. And yesterday, speaking of injuries around the NFL, Rashawn Slater, one of the better left tackles in the entire league, the Chargers left tackle, patella injury, out for the year. Again, he signed his extension just prior to Bernard Ryman signing that new extension there. So awful news for a team in the Chargers that the Colts do play this season, and I think will, was a playoff team last year and could very well be one again this season. So big news item from one of the better left tackles, I think, in the league.
All right. Lord knows what we'll be talking about next, but you're free to join the conversation at 239-1070. Hopefully it's Colts-related content. We'll do it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yes, I love watching Tyler Warren. That's what I know this morning. That's what I learned last night, Mark Dykton.
It's a perfect song to use after our previous conversation.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen. James Boyd will never be entrusted with my youngest son again after this morning.
I didn't even get a chance to show him a good time. It's Friday. Hey, Grant, if you're listening, hit your boy up.
Hit the streets.
We're going out on the town. Jake, if you want to tag along too, I'm a person of of inclusion. Everybody can roll.
There we go.
Nora's asking about you. She saw the picture of the show.
Oh yeah.
She's like, how's Uncle James? How's Uncle Kevin? How's Uncle Jim?
Hey,
they're good.
We live in life. I showed this picture to my mom, Kevin, and she was very happy that I was able to behave myself around a small child.
We're going to be talking about the Colts in a second here. They lose to the Ravens 24-16. A lot to dig into there, including the injury to Anthony Richardson. But once again, I want to thank all our sponsors for a terrific day out on the course yesterday at Legends Golf Course. Ted Bishop, who's the one and only, he's the godfather of golf in this area. Man, he took care of us yesterday. I know everybody loved the tenderloins sandwiches yesterday, the fried tenderloins from the legendary truck over there. Mark, I know you were big in that. How many of those did you end up wolfing down?
Only needed one. They were massive, but they were delicious. Oh, my goodness.
And they were good. EA Carts was helping us out yesterday. Zinc Distributing, taking care of us on the beverages, Kevin. The legendary kitchen we talked about. LD Smith Plumbing. The Indianapolis Colts helped out a little bit, too, yesterday. We appreciate that. And we had Mizuno come by and give away a set of golf clubs for closest to the pin. We had all kinds of things going on yesterday, Kevin Bowen.
I want to give a shout-out to Mark Dykton. He delivered to me late in the day, much needed at that point. Much has been made about our bet from earlier in the week, the Reds winning the series from the Cubs. The agreement on the bet was a six-pack of legendary Barry Mondos. Mark's effort in trying to get a hold of the Mondos.
Cue the music, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was a little similar to Anthony Richardson's effort last night in a play that knocked him out of the game.
Whoa! But this just took the worst turn ever.
I know. This is a thank you?
But having said that,
the worst thank you ever.
Mark did deliver with, I would call it 20 potentially, maybe more.
Oh, you better up that number.
20 to 30.
Up it more.
Kool-Aid Squeeze-Its in a cooler with ice. And when I picked up my children yesterday afternoon from school, I've never seen them so happy to have one.
That was 8 six-packs, by the way.
48 in there?
Yep.
Man. When Rosie got her hands on a purple one and Max on a red one, they were absolutely thrilled. So Uncle Mark, again, I have an
So
Uncle
we're all
Mark
good now, right?
in New York. Yeah, I think so.
There was some hesitation there. Woo, man.
A little disappointed in just the Monday.
Man, his literally title something doesn't.
I guess it was maybe Tuesday or Wednesday effort
he
that
wants
he
you
had
to be in
there.
Back to the Future. Getting the
Again,
DeLorean.
Not overly mad, but just slightly disappointed.
You're not disappointed at anything because
if roles were reversed, I think there would have been much more of a concerted effort. But your Cubs cannot back it up for you, and you gave a similar effort to what the Cubs
full
bullpen
of
gave.
drinks for you and your children while you were dying out there in no tent or canopy yesterday.
Honestly, the best drink I had yesterday was probably one of those.
And I gave it to him, and he looked, and he's like, "You were right. The Kool-Aids is what they were." You were going to leave that note out, I think. You weren't going to mention that. You were incorrect on the Mondo guess to begin with.
Again, I think the pursuit of a six-pack of Mondos could have been there for you.
I can't pursue anything that doesn't exist.
It was kind of a quick white flag, You look like Scott McLaughlin in the
Did you notice the
500 this year
overkill
with
with 48, though?
40, that was quite impressive. That was a nice cooler, Mark, in terms of that. Those things stayed cool all day long.
I love that cooler.
Tremendous work. So, Mark, thank you.
Well, thank you. Besides that shot to the back of the head you took at some point. But, yeah, somebody said next time we make a bet, I should ask for Doritos 3Ds because I think they stopped making those 20 years ago, too.
I hated Doritos 3Ds.
Try to figure those out.
It's a Fan Morning Show, 239-1070, the number to call. You want to talk about the Colts last night, give us your response to what you liked, what you didn't like, what you saw. What we saw was more of the same, James, with Anthony Richardson. Doesn't look like a major injury, fortunately, but once again, couldn't finish what he started. And it seems to be getting every year, once or twice, we run into that with Anthony Richardson.
Yes, he's injury prone. That is a label that he has not been able to shake throughout his first 2 years. But I do want to pivot to this factor of that. How do you all feel, Kevin has Notre Dame hat on, about Riley Leonard being the de facto backup
Thank you
in
to
that
Brant,
scenario?
by the way, for this hat yesterday at the fan golf outing. Well, I mean, I guess I don't think Richardson is going to be out for a while.
No, I'm saying
but
if this happens in the regular season where
yes,
one of the guys
to go
down,
out and get another quarterback.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Based off his performance yesterday in the preseason game.
Again, Leonard.
What we seen in the preseason in training camp.
You know, he can make plays again with his legs, and to be fair, those were against guys that largely probably won't be here. I think against NFL starting athletes. I don't know if Riley Leonard's legs are as effective and as potent as they were at Notre Dame. You know, he had a couple throws, but largely about what you would have expected from Leonard. He a fine third quarterback to develop, but by no means do I want him one play away in a game. We brought it up earlier in the show. Will the backup week 1 be the week 17 starter? Greg spun it in a further direction. He goes, the week 17 starter isn't on the roster right now.
Ooh.
Oh, Lord. That's really dark.
No, that's a frightening thought.
Ooh. I was having such a good Friday
I was going to say,
too.
Jeff literally just lost the ability to speak. He just roughed into the mic like a dog.
Last segment all over again.
Oh, like, what the heck is going on? Oh, my goodness. Oh, man,
You need
Mark,
to let that one
you
go,
are,
Mark.
you are quick-witted, I'll say that.
But, like a terrier back there. He's got a hold of a bone. He's not letting that go, man.
Man.
Let's go to the phone lines, 239-1070, your chance to feedback. Give us some feedback on what happened in the game last night. Nick joins us here at 239-1070. Nick, good morning. Thanks for being here. Let us have it.
Hey, how's it going? Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Go for it.
Yeah, so just 2 points. Just want to say I'm a long time one of your YouTube listeners, tuning in from Orlando, Florida. So
Let's
thank you
go.
guys for putting that out there for
Respect.
this.
Thank you for that.
Listen. Yeah, KB also a big fan of the podcast. Been tuning in for a while, so
Appreciate that.
I
Thank
guess
you.
just the first thing. I feel like there's been different points in the last few years where just collectively Colts fans have just kind of shooken their heads and been kind of upset. And that happened about 15 minutes into this season so far. So that was just kind of, as your first listener, Ray, said, it's disappointing, but you almost have to laugh like, here we go again, right? So I think that's, it's a little bit of an overreaction in that he wasn't really hurt. But I think that even if he wasn't hurt and just was taken out, as a precaution, we'd still be having the same conversation. So I just think that's upsetting, and you can maybe reflect on that. And then the other point I'd make is, in a perfect world, right, Richardson is either your guy this year and we get clarification on that, or he's terrible and we're in a perfect opportunity to draft somebody for the future. But they've kicked this can down the road so many times that now Ballard, Steichen, fighting for their jobs. They have to bring somebody in to be competitive. And, players like Buckner, Nelson, Grover Stewart, they're reaching kind of the end of their prime, and we've just wasted so much of their prime that you kind of have to build a competitive team to at least try and go out there and win, where you're just going to set yourself back again by not being able to draft one of those top guys if, we win 8 games and Daniel Jones just kind of rights the ship just enough to stay afloat. So if you guys could just kind of reflect on that and see kind of the hole that we're in.
Nick, appreciate that. Quarterback purgatory is quarterback hell. When you're stuck in the middle of the NFL, you're in hell. And in today's day and age of the AFC, Band-Aids ain't getting you anywhere. You got to have legit quarterbacks in this conference. The conference is littered with it. They all are relatively young. I mean, what, Mahomes is the oldest? How old's Mahomes? 29?
Coming up on 30, yeah.
I mean, that's young. I mean, that's not old. So, you're going to have to, get the answer and then go find the new one. And again, hindsight's 20/20, but the day that Andrew Luck shocked the world, all eggs had to be in the next future of the franchise quarterback basket, and instead they tried to Band-Aid it up for 5-6 years, and now you're paying the consequences for that.
So what Nick spoke about, I think, is all valid and very good points that he made, but you're looking at it through the lens of the fan, which is fair. I don't mean to disrespect him in any way in regards to that. But from the Chris Ballard perspective, you're thinking, no, we cannot tank. We don't want a top 5 pick. And for most of, I think, the fan base, they will be like, you know what? If we're not going to be sold on a quarterback stink it up, give me the high draft pick, and we'll just draft a quarterback and move on. But drafting a quarterback, in theory, next year means that no one else is here. Your quarterbacks are gone, your head coach is most likely gone, and your GM is most likely gone. And none of those guys currently in that position wants that to happen. And the same thing happens with the players, too. I hear players or fans, and it happens. A couple years ago, it happened when they were relieved that Rodney Thomas missed the interception against the Houston Texans, so they ended up getting a higher draft pick, the Colts, that is. But in the moment, Rodney Thomas is distraught because he knows, man, I'm trying to play for my career, and I don't want a new guy coming in because that could mean something different for my future. So it's always a slippery slope there, but that's why I think that the Colts have kind of kicked that can down the road, is because they're scared of bottoming out. Because when they did, obviously, the last time they truly bottomed out was in 2022, sans or without Ballard involved, everyone else was gone.
We'll talk more about last night's contest and what it means and what is going to happen over the next couple of days in the week for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll take some more of your phone calls. Hang on the line. We'll get right to you. It's the Fan Morning Show at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I think I just need to be stretched.
Excuse me?
I think
I'm not here for that.
I
didn't come over here to do that.
So I will tell you this: I'm very tight. Just so you know, I'm just telling you. When I go to my gym, my buddy Bob stretches me, and he's usually very complimentary of my hamstrings. Calls me the trampoline, and he says I've never seen anybody tighter. Mostly because of just the overall muscle mass of it. I could do this on the camera probably for folks. It's like a rock.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Are you not impressed?
Oh, I'm not touching it, though.
I mean, that's 52 years of muscle right there.
Oh,
That's
yeah. Eddie, I don't know if you're like me of the mindset, but you probably got a promo out of everything Jake was just talking about there. At least one. Just some fun at the outing yesterday with Jake.
I've never been more uncomfortable in my entire life.
Oh,
Try
I was
being next to
going to
him.
say, you look
He's
pretty
lifting his
uncomfortable
shorts.
earlier.
Look at this thigh. I'm like, you're going a little too high there.
You know what, Jake Query, he operates by the beat of his own drum. I will say that. What a guy.
That's a lot of fun to listen to every day between noon and 3. And then, of course, JMV doing his thing from 3 to 6. He'll be back again later on today. Mark Dykton, what goes on in your head on a day-to-day basis, I just don't even know, man.
I feel like I bring that out of people. I don't intentionally do it, but I just sit down and they start talking about body parts, and I'm like, okay.
You tend to
So what you're saying is you're second base.
That's right. The previous discussion holds any water.
Now you really don't need to be texting anybody's wife at this point in time.
Not anymore.
Man, I think there's some guilt involved in the 48 Kool-Aid.
No, none
things
whatsoever.
yesterday.
But
I don't know.
you under-promise and over-deliver. That's what I've been
Is that
told.
what that was? Okay.
Well, I did have, I think it was LG maybe on Twitter reach out. Mark texting Kevin's wife has to be the craziest thing I've heard on your airwaves. Absolute no-no. #bro code. And yeah, that is certainly one that is.
Come on. All right.
That has kept me up
It's
at
not like
night.
we haven't met before. I've met Maddie multiple times.
I've seen this text, and I've seen the response to this text.
He's making it way worse
from
than it actually
Maddie,
is.
and I would honestly think that she's on the side of Mark here. She was not Team Kevin in this scenario at all.
Jeff, do I have your wife's phone number? That is a what? An emphatic no, correct?
Man, nah.
Exactly.
Mark, I've seen
do
the
I
text.
have Ashley's phone number? No.
I'll airdrop it to you right now.
Mostly because the same thing that happened to you would happen to me. The two of them would end up talking about, me being crazy
This
or
was
something.
her saying, my husband don't have a clue what he's talking about.
She basically called you
I'm the
delusional.
one who gets the groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Around the horn here, best thing you saw in the Colts game last night was what?
I mean, we are growing to expect it already, but Tyler Warren looks terrific. He looked like a guy that you want to live up to being a first-round draft pick.
James Boyd?
I'll go Alex Johnson. The play itself was pretty sick. I mean, first throw of the game, you jump up, one-handed pick.
Yeah,
that's good energy for a
nice.
guy trying to fight for a 53-man roster spot.
You?
Mark?
The interception, that was a nice start to it. I was feeling pretty good there. I'm actually going to go a little sidetrack. I'm going to say Spencer Schrader. I know he missed a 53-yarder later in the game, but I thought, we haven't seen really Colts kickers kick from 53. He hit it from 53 earlier, and I was like, okay, 3 out of 4. That's a solid start there.
Yeah, I know he exited late with the injury. It sounded like a knee, and Nate Atkins from the start talked with JT Tuimoloau in the locker room postgame. Pretty much said he banged knees, so it doesn't sound like too severe. But I thought his versatility is something that has stood out to me in camp. I was curious what it would look like in a game. And, he had some other guys kind of spring him free for a sack off a stunt. But, he does – the body type isn't apples to apples, but it does seem like he might be in a kind of a Dio Dangbo role in Dio departing and him kind of being a rotational guy that could play a couple of different spots on that defensive line. Number 91 last night. And the guy seemingly has been on the team forever. But again, last night he made a few plays. Shout out to Ashton Doolin. Just like a solid football player. The college that he went to doesn't even have a football program anymore. Just a really nice NFL career. Undrafted dude. Earned a couple contracts.
Was an all-pro a couple years ago.
Yeah, all-pro special teamer. But even as your sixth wideout, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, he's really carved out a nice little role for him, and he's reliable.
Completely dependable is how I describe him.
And
that's a big plus.
Came back from a torn ACL, so I'll go there.
Hey, in the NFL, James, completely dependable is a big thing to have, don't you think?
Absolutely. I enjoy my interactions with Ashton Doolin, a class act through and through, and someone who is a fighter. And I've talked to him about this, and I should do a story on this, honestly. just how insane special teams is when you're not a kicker or a long snapper
you got to
or
have
a
screws
punter.
loose in your head.
Yeah, like I was talking to him about just being a gunner and, him, in theory, he was basically describing it as we're all just going to sign up for car accidents on these types of plays and hope that you can get back up afterwards. And so talking to him, I believe Isaiah McKenzie a couple years ago was like the Colts' punt returner, hearing him talk about punt returning and the trust you have to have that the guy on the other team won't just decapitate you every play, and then occasionally they might actually do it. So it's fascinating that he scrapped his way through all those things and stayed relatively healthy outside of the ACL. And like I said, class act, good dude, and someone who, if you get in the pinch, he can certainly fill in for you at the wide receiver spot.
Speaking of special teams, big issue there coverage-wise last night.
Yeah, I thought
Punt
Brian,
return,
I can only imagine how Brian Mason would have reacted.
Honestly, the frustrating elements, I think, are that 108 penalty yards is a massive number, easily a season high.
We saw some of the line of scrimmage stuff, false starts, things of that nature.
And then I thought the run defense. We should get to A.D. Mitchell at some point. I know we got Matt Taylor coming up on the other side, but we should get into the night of A.D. Mitchell at some point. And did Mark also show you the text where, if I read that correctly, I think he was asking Maddie for pictures at some point?
Oh, my gosh.
Did he show you that text, too?
This dude is
That's how it starts.
You would think that this is like...
starts.
Well, okay, can I... The reason I originally had
believe we're up against it.
We got to go to break right
now.
now.
Oh,
We'll
my
talk
goodness.
about it later.
Really
Matt Taylor.
You're owed that, Mark.
Matt Taylor on the way. Next, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Anthony Richardson goes out of the gun, ball in the near hash, backs to throw, and he is decked from the left, and he is sacked and buried. He took a big-time hit, but more importantly, hangs on to the football, and the Ravens with a sack off the left edge.
And he's going off the field, Matt. He got hit unabated. There was no one blocking. The protection was totally not there. You can't have your quarterback take that shot.
And like you said, Anthony Richardson is out of the game. That was a wicked hit.
Yeah, no, it was weird. He hit me, and then I was trying to make sure I had the ball, and I just looked down, and I see my finger different direction. I'm like, maybe I'm tripping. And I looked at it again, and it was definitely like that. So I got to get this thing popped back in place, but I'm good, though.
Yeah, dislocation. They popped it back in. Right now, day to day. See where it goes. He's feeling all right. You know what I mean? It's a dislocation. They pop back in. I mean, we'll see, where it goes.
Same song and dance.
Either of you guys ever dislocated a finger? It's not fun.
No, not. Yeah, I saw James was dealing with a lot of people trying to compare their injuries to Anthony Richardson last night on social media, and I was glad I wasn't part of that conversation.
Yeah, let me just go on my rant real quick. Anybody who mentioned that to me last night, you are delusional. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in covering professional sports is when a civilian tells me, well, you know what? Back in my day, I did X, Y, Z, and I was fine. You are not playing a professional sport. You are just really probably doing something ill-advised, and you probably have to schedule, is the doctor in network if I blow my knee out? Like, Anthony Richardson ain't dealing with that. So I hate when people do that. That is the dumbest thing. I broke both of my fingers on my index hand, actually, on my right hand. My index finger, my middle finger, playing basketball, and I played through it. But, does it matter? No. It is not comparative to Anthony Richardson at all. Ran over.
And we did get a little bit of news here before we get to voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, reporting here. Anthony Richardson declared out last night, of course, with a finger injury. Had all his x-rays come back clean and will be back on the practice field in the coming days. Again, that from Jordan Schultz. Just to remind everybody, Saturday, Sunday, Monday afternoon practices for the Colts. Tuesday, Wednesday, off day. Thursday, joint practice with the Green Bay Packers.
Having said that, let's get to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. The voice of the Indianapolis Colts, Matt Taylor, joins us this morning. Matt, did you come out relatively unscathed? No injuries for you or Buck last night? You okay?
We came out of it in good shape. Maybe just a little bit tired, but that's not an injury. That's more of a personal problem. But life was good to get back to a game last night, but certainly some up and down, uneven play, and a lot of stuff to sort out.
What's the big takeaway you had from last night as you think about it overnight?
Well, I thought Daniel Jones, when he came in relief, and for the most part, I thought he looked pretty crisp. And I don't think his overall stat line is going to tell the whole story on how good I thought that he looked, because he had, some bad plays that the Colts were forced into. He had some drops that some of the skill players on offense, didn't do him any favors there in terms of securing the pass and getting upfield and things like that. So I think his overall completion percentage is going to be a little bit deceptive. But I was really impressed with how he was able to, because he fully wasn't expecting to come in until about with 3 or 4 minutes I think left in the half. So to come in basically halfway through the first quarter and be thrusted into that position and come out and perform and play well, I thought it was impressive. Just kind of speaks to his preparation, his professionalism, and just the way he was able to come in and not let the moment. It's a preseason game, right? I get it, but it's still a big time moment for him in his battle for this starting job going into the regular season. So I was impressed with him, his athleticism. He kind of scrambled out of the pocket a couple times, used his feet to get a first down. Overall, I thought it was a good night for him, and it's just kind of tough to evaluate again with this Anthony Richardson absence, leaving the game early, with the hand injury or the finger injury in this case. It just kind of throws a wrinkle in how you evaluate the quarterbacks, because as of right now, it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison if the Colts stick to their plan coming up on Saturday against the Packers. I don't know how much this will kind of change things in terms of the evaluation, because the plan was for Anthony to play a quarter and a half and Daniel to play a quarter and a half. With this hiccup yesterday, I'm not sure if they're going to change that up.
knowing that Daniel got a lot of the reps, more reps than he probably anticipated yesterday. So that's my big takeaway from last night is that, Daniel Jones came in and was a total pro about it and looked pretty sharp.
We have Matt Taylor on the line, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline, and he is the voice of the Colts. Mayte, when you made the call and you saw Anthony Richardson kind of get lit up on that play, one, what's going through your mind when he is kind of running off? And at first, it looks like he's holding his shoulder kind of down, but it turns out to be his hand. And then did you just breathe a sigh of relief when you find out that perhaps it isn't as big of an injury as it looked to be initially?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw 90 Ajabo coming off the left edge there, I actually had a really good shot of it because we were broadcasting yesterday from the corner. And so he comes off the left edge, sort of like right down my sight line. The Colts were coming towards me, if you will, in that direction. And I saw him get a clean, scot-free release to Anthony Richardson. And I'm thinking, oh, God, get rid of it. Just throw it away. Don't take this hit. And then he takes that wicked sack, goes down. And I'm thinking to myself, man, he's either, he's got an upper body injury. He took a face mask to the chest, or maybe he's concussed. But as soon as I saw him leave the game, I thought this is the last thing that he needs. Because we all know the injury history. He's got 4 different injuries that have kept him out. He's only played in 15 games, in 2 years. He's missed 17 games due to an injury. This is the last thing that he needs, especially when he's been having such a good off season. He's been so much more intentional about everything, and working out with personal throwing coaches and just buying into the whole concept of what it means and the extra steps that you have to take to be a franchise quarterback and, the face of an NFL team. And I don't want to see that any of that be derailed as he competes with Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback. So all of those things come flooding to your mind, and then you don't know what's going on, during the game, how they're treating him over on the sideline. So you don't find out until after the game that it's thankfully not as severe, but, it's still, hopefully he doesn't miss any practice time. The Colts are going to practice, like you guys said, tomorrow. Ideally, he get back out there and sort of resume this competition, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, those are all the things that were racing through my mind because he's a good kid and he's worked really hard this entire offseason, being much more intentional about everything. You just want to see that come to fruition and let the best man win the competition based on apples to apples comparison, and both guys get a fair shot at it.
We appreciate Matt Taylor's work and obviously waking up after what was a very long night for him. So Mayte, thank you for that here on this Friday morning. One thing you liked non-quarterback division from last night, one thing you didn't like non-quarterback division from last night.
Well, I liked the way that the secondary was battling. There's a lot of guys that were, kind of thrusted into more playing time because of Justin Wally's injury, and that's just, sidebar, another gut punch, another, one of those things where the Colts were, they were looking so good in the secondary in terms of the stockpile number of quality depth pieces that they had, and then all of a sudden Wally's out for the year with a torn ACL, and then here comes Jalen Jones with his hamstring that continues to linger. Same thing with Juju Brents. Those guys haven't practiced for a week plus. And then Wally's thing on Tuesday was just the last thing they needed there. But they have brought in some reinforcements, guys like Trey Herndon and Duke Shelley and Chris Lamons. And I thought all those guys played really well. And then here comes Alex Johnson as well, kind of a veteran piece out of UCLA, makes an interception, gets a pass defense. Right out of the gate in the first half, those guys are making plays, they're competing and just sort of branding themselves inside the Lou Anarumo scheme. So that was encouraging to see as they try to, potentially round out the back end of that secondary on the 53-man roster. And then what I did not like was just the penalties and obviously the special teams coverage units. The Colts last night allowed over 230 kick return yards, kickoff returns, and punt return yardage. And listen, it's the preseason too, so there's a lot of, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And some of these guys that are trying to cover these kicks and punts aren't going to be here in the regular season. So you have to factor that into it too. But of course, from a scheme standpoint, it's still basically going to carry over under, the special teams coordinators and the special teams units. So they've got to hash that stuff out. And then the penalties too. The Colts last year were the third most disciplined team in the NFL in terms of third fewest penalties and the fewest penalty yards. And last night they had a whopping 9 of them, and just some, false starts on offense, silly mistakes. You had some holding penalties by some receivers and things like that, and defensive pass interference stuff. It's kind of your typical preseason game from last night. It's kind of choppy. There's good, there's bad, and there's some gray area in between that you really don't know, what you're looking at as a fan, because you don't know, personnel, what they're trying to, just see what works and stuff like that. But overall, I thought it was a typical preseason game night, a lot of good, a lot of bad, and hopefully the Colts can smooth that out coming up on Thursday in a joint practice against the Packers, and we'll see what the plan is going forward for the starters coming up next Saturday.
You heard that voice last night. That is Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts, and we appreciate him with us here on this Friday morning. Mayte, going back to quarterbacks for just a second, you brought up, obviously, the original plan was to have Daniel Jones get the bulk this coming week against Green Bay, I guess a week from Saturday, technically. I think you have to flip that if it's going to be a true competition. But let's go here. Do you think, in the back of Shane Steichen's mind, the thought process was name a starter after that Green Bay game and then maybe let him dress rehearsal it up a little bit against Cincinnati? Or how did you kind of view the rest of this month in regards to the quarterback competition before last night?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know. I don't know how this was ultimately going to play out. In my mind, dating back to the spring when Anthony got banged up and wasn't able to, or had the shoulder aggravation and wasn't able to finish out, the off-season workout program, I thought to myself then, this is going to go all the way until, heck, they could use that final preseason game in Cincinnati. Plus, there's 8 or 9 more days until you play the Dolphins in week 1 of the regular season. You could use that time too to continue the evaluation until you have to make roster cuts, obviously. So I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know if they were going to use the Packers game to announce, or use that final evaluation to announce the starter and then give that guy substantial reps, maybe play a full half in Cincinnati. From a gamesmanship standpoint, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't know why you would do that either, because wouldn't you hypothetically want to make Miami wait as long as possible to game plan and know who the Colts are going to roll out there starter wise in the regular season? So I don't know how last night factors into it too. The monkey wrench that throws into the equation. So it's a good question. I don't have the answer for it, and based off of Richardson's overall absence from last night, I don't know if they have an answer for it too. I think they're going to let it play out and just see the work that both guys get in, and in the joint practice and the preseason, and maybe there's more they need to see against Cincinnati, and let that play out too. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's kind of TBD, and it's ongoing, and that's what I said going into the training camp period. I said, if you're looking for an answer, I got bad news for you. You're not going to get one, and you're probably not going to get one soon, and I still don't know if you're going to get one at the end of the preseason.
Mayte, last one from me. I am curious, because you have to know all the players on the roster, and we joke about this in the media all the time, that you probably know where every guy on the roster went to school, whether they're the top player like Quentin Nelson or DeForest Buckner, or their last guy trying to make the team. What did you think of one of those guys trying to make the team, Alex Johnson, and his interception last night, and what that could do perhaps in a banged-up cornerback room?
Yeah, he's a second-year guy. He's with the Giants last year. Was a practice squad player for some of the season for them. And he's one of those guys that, he's playing more because of those injuries. And I just thought that last night he competed and he battled and he made the most of his opportunity. Second play from scrimmage, they're going after him. They're testing him over there on that fade pattern, that go route on the sideline. He just battles his tail off, and he makes essentially a one-handed interception snag, and that's what you have to do in the preseason. We talk about this all the time. If you're a back into the roster guy or an undrafted free agent, you kind of just tell those guys, if you're the coaches going into the preseason, just keep it simple. Don't try to do too much, but just show us why you're here. Show us why we claimed you, or why we brought you in. Show us your traits.
Give it a reason for us to continue to evaluate you and to, think long and hard about keeping you on the 53-man roster and give us some good depth. And that's exactly what he did last night. Khalil Herbert did that, to a degree. I thought DJ Giddens, he ran really hard. Tyler Goodson ran really hard. There's a lot of guys last night from, just an individual microcosm standpoint, played well and helped themselves, even though the team aspect of things was kind of choppy and up and down. I thought there was some really good individual performances, and defensively, especially in the first half, Johnson's name, definitely rises to the top of really good individual performances and a guy that stood out last night.
Matt, as always, thanks for getting up early after, I assume you came back late last night, but we appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you.
My pleasure, boys. Anything for you. I would have got up at 7 a.m. to do this. I would have done the whole show with you guys.
Stop it.
Well, come on in. You
know
what?
Dear Lord.
Probably not to be awake, but I'd be there.
Expecting like a six-pack of beer all of a sudden when I see him tomorrow in Westfield after that comment.
Yeah.
You'll be co-hosting after the third preseason game, just letting you know.
Hey, that's all good. Anything
right,
I can do. The more you can do.
All right. Have fun.
See you, man.
Matt Taylor, relatively untouched by the mind of Mark Dykton so far, it sounds like. So that would be good about having him come in.
He'll be bringing the energy tomorrow on the mic, 4 o'clock. Are they going to go like real tomorrow, James Boyd, or are you expecting Sunday to be more the real one?
Probably Sunday. I would think you want to kind of ease back into things, especially for the guys who haven't practiced or played over the last couple of days. I don't know how wise it would be to just kind of hit it full throttle after playing in a game less than 48 hours before that. So that's something to keep in mind. One player I do want to give a shout out to, I feel like I haven't talked about him very much throughout the show this morning, but JT Tuimoloau. He looked legit yesterday. Now I get that he went up against some of the reserves for the Ravens, and I should say there were a lot of reserves in that game, but some of the deeper reserves. But nevertheless, I mean, for the second-round pick, NFL preseason debut, he put up a heck of a stat line, 2 tackles for loss, a sack. He had 2 QB hits, pass deflection, forced fumble, you name it. Now, he did leave that game with a knee injury, but I believe Indy Star's Nate Atkins spoke to him. Doesn't sound like it's going to be a big deal. Kind of got banged up there, but nothing to really worry about. But as far as his disruptiveness, I like what I saw.
Yeah, and you know what? He was the guy that I singled out when we went around the horn for, kind of good moments. I'd say, I don't know, quarterback's so important. It's probably unfair to say this, but probably the biggest news item from last night was Justin Wally's torn ACL. I mean, again, this occurred Tuesday during the joint practice. This is your 3rd-round pick out of Minnesota, corner, undersized corner. The Colts were very high on him. Several other NFL teams were very high on him. And James, since day one he walked in that door, not a single member of that Colts organization has been hesitant in offering public praise for him. That is very rare.
These are guys who don't do that.
I cannot recall a time I've seen a Colts draft pick as a rookie receive this much public praise. Now, he plays a position at corner where on paper you didn't have like an immense amount of urgency to draft a corner. Now, with how the injury situation has played out, his obviously ACL, the hamstring injury for Jalen Jones, the hamstring injury for Juju Brents, now the depth is really being tested there. So you just feel awful for the kid, obviously. He was a 4-year starter in the Big Ten. The thought was he could come in and play and start as that 3rd corner in a very important role. And again, Lou Anarumo wants to be in more sub packages. He wants more defensive backs on the field here. So, yeah, just awful. Just awful. And you need Jalen Jones and or Juju Brents back to health quickly. Guys like Samuel Womack, number 33, Alex Johnson, who had the early interception, number 35, Jonathan Edwards, number 39, undrafted free agent out of Tulane.
Flip those.
Say it again.
Flip those numbers. 39 for Johnson.
39 is Johnson, 35 is Edwards.
Yep.
All of those guys, thank you, need to be ready. And, I mean, week 1, Tyreek Hill, Jonnu Smith, and Jalen Waddle, that's a deep pass-catching group. So
and they don't have Tim Boyle or
no.
Stu Huntley throwing to him this time.
Right, Tua likely to be starting. So, yeah, just really, really unfortunate for Wally.
All right, that's what's happening with the Colts right now. A little bit more right now as we check it down and get you ready for the weekend.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ravens beat the Colts 24-16 last night. Anthony Richardson only 3 passes, 2 of them completed, but he left the game with that dislocated pinky on his throwing hand after not recognizing a blitz and getting clocked on that play. Daniel Jones ended up playing more than he thought he was going to, 10 of 21 for 144 yards, but did a decent job of moving the chains and getting the team into scoring position a couple of times, Kevin.
Yeah, I thought he's fine. 5 drives, 3 of them scoring drives. I thought there were some moments where he gave some guys opportunities after the catch. By no means was it great or, the quarterback bar in Indianapolis, sadly, pathetically, we have to talk about it in a different light than pretty much every other NFL market. So when you compare it to what he has looked like or the alternative, I thought he did a decent job.
It is one preseason game and a very small sample size, but I believe the Colts have themselves a tight end, James Boyd.
Yeah, and speaking of tight ends, just one real clarification. I know KB mentioned Jonnu Smith. He got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
apologies.
Yeah.
It's all good. They will still see him on the schedule at some point this season. And then as far as Colts tight ends go, yes, Tyler Warren looked the part last night. He showed off the ability to get catches over the middle of the field, which is an area that the Colts have struggled in recent years, trying to make plays over the middle. And then when he got the ball in his hands, I liked, his physicality and his yards after catch. And so you're hoping that continues into the regular season.
All right. And in the WNBA last night, late game in Phoenix, not a good night for the Indiana Fever. They lose 95-60. I almost wanted to say Phoenix beat Sophie Cunningham 95-60 because she was really the only offense last night. She had 6 3-pointers, couldn't miss in the first half at one point in time. Only 2 Fever players in double figures. Kelsey Mitchell had 12, but she was 4 of 17 from the field. It was just a rough night all the way around.
Yeah, the big news, obviously, coming out of that game, beyond the loss, is the injuries to Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson. Sydney Colson left with, I believe, a knee injury.
And that looks
Ari
bad.
McDonald,
that looked tough.
Yes, and then Ari McDonald, I believe, also had a maybe foot or ankle injury. So those are things to keep an eye on, especially considering that Caitlin Clark, there is still no timeline for her return. And also, I wouldn't be petty if I wouldn't petty. DeWanna Bonner got her lick back. She was talking crazy to them yesterday. And so as a hater, I was like, you know what? Respect, because she was definitely waiting to chirp, and she let loose yesterday.
60's got to be one of the lower numbers in quite a while.
Yeah, that was a horrible offensive performance. And honestly, I think those types of games, I'm like, do you just flush it? You go back and watch, obviously, what you did wrong. But, they're never going to shoot.
It's hard to
injuries
ignore
and shooting. Like, it was just such an anomaly type of performance.
Final game of the road trip. I think they've earned the right to a little bit of a benefit of the doubt.
Because they've been a scrappy team.
But right now, again, point guard health, they're going to need bring in January to suit up tomorrow night.
It's they do have a couple of games coming up at home. Saturday night against Chicago, first one 8 p.m. Later on tonight, you want to go watch some baseball? Victory Field will be the place. James, the Indians hosting the Omaha Storm Chasers. We've got
Would you all ever chase storms?
Yeah, when I was younger.
I'm not Bill Paxton or Helen Hunt and Twister. I'm
always like, man,
storms.
people who do that,
sir.
God bless them.
No, sir. I'm not chasing storms.
Chasing waterfalls.
I can barely chase my own kids.
I was one of those guys that self-preservation gene for me didn't fully mature till I was about 30.
I tend to stick to the lakes and the rivers that I'm used to.
You guys heard about me trying to chase second and third base back in the day. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
Lord knows I'm not chasing storms.
Forgot what you're talking about there. We got
someone said
IndyCar
that,
on Sunday, right?
Matt was saying that he was stuck in the bullpen a lot, playing with himself, he said, in the bullpen. I believe if he said this correct here.
You want to throw it to break, Kev?
He goes, the manager never gave me the call up. Big Matt and I were kind of in the same boat, probably.
Sitting there eating some big league chew, I guess.
Seeding it up in the bullpen. Portland. Alex Pillow, he is on the verge of clinching the season series from a point standpoint. Can get his 9th win of the year. Is 10 all time? Is that the record?
That I don't know that. That's a good question. That's probably a Jake question.
3 races to go, and Team Penske, I believe, is yet to win a race this season. You want to talk about a horrific year for them. That has definitely been there. So a couple of things. Just keep an eye out from an IndyCar standpoint here. They'll race 3 times in August. Next week, nothing up in Milwaukee on that oval, and then Nashville to round it out.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk a little bit more about the Colts and the preseason ahead and what is to look forward to this weekend. Are you back at the fair this weekend, Mark? We'll talk about that next as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Friday morning, weekend coming up. You don't have to worry about watching the Colts football game unless you want to go back and watch the tape again. You going to go back and watch it again today? See what you missed, James? You good?
No, I would never.
Yeah. Kevin, have you've run the course on this one? You letting it go?
I don't know. I might go back and watch the first half, but yeah, I can't say I'm gonna dial
Kevin's
up
a
Riley
sicko.
Leonard.
He's gonna watch it.
Say second half again.
Yeah, I'm
man.
not gonna lie. Once a preseason
He didn't
game
like
is
Riley
over,
Leonard at Notre Dame.
No, he's going to watch it.
I don't think. Speaking of Riley, I thought he was okay last night, but again, nothing that I saw last night would convince me that he could be QB2.
He's a ways
anytime
away.
soon.
Kevin's got a cooler full of Kool-Aids. He's going to crack them open and be like, "Here, watch. Let's break down the film."
What a great
Come
gesture
on, Rosie. Come on,
by
Max.
Mark Dykton yesterday in delivering that.
Let's break it down.
I'm waiting for
Grab
like
a
the
cherry
punchline
one.
because that was way too nice, Kevin.
It was a very nice gesture. I was thrilled. Mark, thank you.
I even
Mark,
stopped at the Walmart out in town to make sure they're ice cold for it because I knew you were going
They
to be
were
sweating. So I was like, you know
cold.
what? Who wants warm drinks? I'll get
Yeah,
the ice
I'm not
cold
gonna
for
lie.
Did you
it.
wait till you got to like near Franklin and
Yeah.
Legends Golf Course
Yes.
before you went and got those?
Franklin. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Next year's golf outing, we gotta get you a tent, brother. You were out there baking.
He was dying out
for
there.
a second
Baking.
there. I'm not gonna lie, Kevin. I was thinking, man, this dude might come back looking like me. You know, we
there
might
was like a
get you some.
25-minute group between, or a 25-minute break between two groups, and I kid you not, I almost fell asleep underneath a tree.
Yeah.
Thank you to Kevin and Chris from the
Did you put that
promotional
group on the
department.
clock?
They were out there with me there.
I could see Kevin putting that group on
They
the clock.
came up. They had made birdie in the previous hole. They offered me fireball, and that explained everything.
Everything
Kevin's
was
just going to
good.
sit like a troll at a bridge. Riddle me these questions 3. He didn't want to leave the shadows.
Fireball has such a quick bite to it, by the way.
I was a little worried about you though, out in the sun, knowing that we'd started the day off with some Miller Lite, knowing that there was Fireball out there.
Did you ever drink yours, Jeff?
No. I had
He
like
cracked
a
it
couple
on
of,
air.
I had a couple of drinks.
See, this is.
I had a couple of drinks. I don't drink.
We should get into this false
don't drink.
I don't drink either, but I also don't crack beers and just leave them sitting there. You know, I feel like that was a waste of a good beer.
It's a
forgot.
waste.
I kind of forgot
was
they did
bullet
crack it.
into it.
I remember when he
Yeah.
did crack it, I was thinking, oh, well, here we
I
should I
probably had
cheers.
half
I
of
know.
it.
So what you're
Half
saying
of
is
it.
Grant's got to hang out with me so he doesn't get peer pressure because
Yeah,
you
that's
crack a
what it
beer
is.
and just let it sit there. But nevertheless, it was a good time yesterday, though. I enjoyed
No,
it.
but I was worried. I actually at one point drove a cart out to just check on Kevin, make
You
sure
did,
you were
yes.
good and everything was okay, and you were doing fine.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Hit a wall or two, but no, it was awesome out there. So thanks everybody coming out there. We had I think a little over 100 golfers out there, and a really fun time.
Yeah, had a really, really great day, and appreciate again everybody from Franciscan for helping us put that thing on, and all the other sponsors that stepped up, and we listed them all and talked about them a couple of times already. But everybody did a fantastic job, and we had a great time with the
Yes,
listeners.
great job, James.
Looking forward to doing that again next year.
I
So,
know.
you were out there too. You were shooting baskets with JMV. You guys were draining
You know what's
threes
funny?
out there.
We can pivot after this, but JMV being in his actual hoop gear was hilarious to me. I was like, I
First
expected him
off,
to be.
how about the golf wardrobe the JMV rock?
How long did it last?
recognize him.
15 minutes?
Yeah, and then he took it off.
Did he have
and
a
had
photo
the-
op? And I was like, because I looked at him and I was like, you are not wearing a belt
The
today.
man
then it
looked
was a
like
tank.
Tommy Fleetwood walking
Yeah,
onto
he
the
did look
first
good.
tee,
He
coming
looked
around the
good.
corner.
I will say
there.
this: I've noticed a few times since he's lost all this weight. I don't know what's going on, but I've seen him in some look to be new polo shirts and some nice, shorts
Tell you what,
and
I
stuff
think
like that.
I think those Twin Peaks girls were taking a look or two over there at John Michael Vincent and that jumper. One thing.
Is that John Stockton or is that JMV?
John?
Yes, they all know who John Stockton is.
Travolta, I think is what he was being called there. I know we brought this up a little bit earlier, and for our crowd out there, do you guys notice, by the way, on a Friday commute in, I feel like it's not as busy as it is Monday through Thursday. Do you guys notice that when you drive in on Friday?
I probably can't relate because my commute is the same every day because I'm so close.
I know, but I just feel like there's less people driving downtown. Nonetheless, I bring that up to say some people are probably just joining us here around 9:30, and if you stayed up for the Colts game, you stayed up, watched the Fever, et cetera, or it's just a Friday and you don't care. Maybe you are just checking us out for the first time. And, we've talked at different iterations throughout the show of last night. Anthony Richardson leaving due to the right pinky injury. Doesn't sound like very severe by any means, dislocation. Some national reports out there indicate he could be back to practice this week. As the play happened and we got to realize the fault of the play, honestly, my mind wasn't as much as like he's injury prone. Like, well, I know it sounds bad and I feel awful for the kid, but duh. He's been hurt in his career. Last night, to me, did not alter my injury-prone opinion on Anthony Richardson by any means. Like,
the play itself was more
honestly,
damning
like
for you,
that
right?
hit, that probably injures a good amount of quarterbacks in the league. Like a dislocated finger, that probably happens to, more than half of these QBs. The issue is how the play happened. And it was an admitted misidentification of a rather elementary NFL element for an NFL quarterback. That, to me, is, I think, what is truly damning about what happened with Richardson last night is in the preseason, when you are vanilla as hell, you got absolutely fooled on a play where the Colts had a rookie right tackle, they had a rookie tight end, they had a rookie running back, they had a center in his second year, and all of them were on the same page. And yet, you were the one that had the screw up there. And the screw up not only sent you out of the game, but it very easily could have been a turnover in your own territory if you want to play like the team impact. So, to me, the conversation on this Friday morning isn't as much about Anthony Richardson is injury prone. It's more about, damn, progression and growth, pre-snap identification, that is alive and well here on August 7th. And that ain't good.
I don't know what else to add to that. We talked about that a little while ago, but to your point, it wasn't just the injury. As you said, that's going to happen on a hit like that. That's going to happen to a lot of guys. It's the fact that that hit happened and he didn't recognize it at all, and he didn't see the guy coming, and it wasn't on his blind side. There were a lot of things going on in that play, James.
Yeah, and that to me is probably one of the most frustrating things. Like, I can only imagine how Shane Steichen felt.
Like, that has to piss Shane off.
Yeah, if we want to just call it that, yes, absolutely. Because you're thinking, dude, this is the most vanilla offense and defense we will have all year, and you blew it. And he mentioned that he thought, I believe reading some of the quotes back, and credit Stephen Holder from ESPN is where I read it, but he was talking about how he thought, the pressure might have been coming from the other side, but just to miss it from what Kurt Warner was saying, and he's a Hall of Fame quarterback on social media, and a few other people who played the game at a high level for a long time, they were all saying, dude, this is like, quarterback one-on-one stuff, and you blew it. And he mentioned, I got to be sharper, I got to be on my P's and Q's, and, kind of shrugged it off. But honestly, it's hard for Anthony to shrug anything off at this point, whether it's injuries, his play. You have no more goodwill or no more reason for people to have like necessarily a lot of faith in you. So I'm not saying he should be freaking out or panicking, but I also wonder to a certain extent how long like the everything's fine, I'm good, like it, I'm better than I was. How long that will last or really be validated?
Some hollow words.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying that stuff, and I can honestly relate to or feel for Colts fans who might feel like, dude, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah,
Play better. But he is. I think that he's playing it cool. That's his personality. I'm not saying you should freak out, but at some point, I'm like, man, it does kind of give you a little annoyance.
One thing I'll add to is, and I'm a loser, so I'll probably go back and watch just the first half. But it didn't seem like, in that play in particular, I believe his eye direction was towards A.D. Mitchell. I want to say Doolin was the receiver on the bottom part of the field that was also hot, along with DJ Giddens. But it looked like he was really trying to get the ball to Mitchell. If you go back and you watch the third,
focused in on him. Almost,
if you watch the 3rd and 7 where he almost gets picked, it's locked in on Mitchell. He realizes that's not open, and then he throws late over the middle to Doolin. So, again, is that a concerted effort between those two? Is that hey, this guy's going to be out here with me more in the regular season? Still, obviously you can't make that mistake, but as soon as that DN starts to drop, boom, you got to see that.
All right, a little bit late getting to a break. I will get to the break now. Hang in there, Jeff. We'll get to a final phone call, 239-1070 in a moment. Look ahead to the weekend as well. It's next, 93.5 and 107.5.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, getting ready to head out to the weekend here. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton. Before we go, though, a couple of more phone calls. People reacting to last night's game as they're coming around now to the Colts 24-16 loss to the Ravens. But what did we learn? What were your impressions? Jeff, thanks for hanging in there. We appreciate you staying through the break. You're next up at 239-1070. Good morning. Welcome to the show. What'd you think?
Hey, Jeff. Great name, by the way. Just want to thank you all for having me on. One thing I learned, I think, from yesterday, and this goes back to AR's rookie year, is like he seems to have no awareness of what's happening like in his immediate vicinity around him. And I say that because I feel like yesterday, like any quarterback would have felt that coming and at least have just, taken the sack, fallen down like a Manning or someone would have stepped up, made a play out of it, but he had no idea that was coming. And then you go back to his rookie year when he scored a touchdown and gets knocked out of the game running the ball in at the goal line. And he told people after the game, like, he didn't even see that guy coming to hit him, and he was right in front of him. So I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like he just does not possess the physical awareness needed to play in the NFL. So like for his own safety, maybe that's just the best thing for him is for someone to step in and be like, yo, dude, this isn't working out. Maybe we need to move on to something else. But I appreciate you guys taking my call. Have a good Friday, and have a good day.
Yeah, Jeff, appreciate that. I think a couple things with Richardson in terms of awareness. I think within the pocket, he actually has decent poise and decent pocket awareness where he clearly struggles, and last night was the perfect example of it, is the pre-snap identification, like that awareness. That is a huge issue. But, he actually has done a nice job. When things kind of get muddy in the pocket, he keeps his eyes down the field. He doesn't duck. He really is not one that takes off and runs too much either. It's just the pre-snap stuff. I mean, so much of anticipation is knowing before it really happens what's going to happen. And, Jeff brought up, Manning would have done this. Other quarterbacks would have done that. I mean, anticipating that is getting DJ Giddens the ball for 3 yards and surviving. Like, he had a play earlier remember they got that illegal man downfield, and
yeah,
I think it was 2nd and 13, and he just found Warren for 6 yards to make it 3rd and 7. Like, that is a step in the right direction of just simple, methodical, find the correct read, get it to 3rd and manageable. And 3rd and 7, he almost gets picked, but it does end in a field goal. Whereas if you try to make the hero play on 2nd and 13, you might not have the field goal there.
Yeah. Real quickly, Dan, before we head to the weekend, you're next up here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. What'd you see?
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday, gentlemen. I think I've got a great way to kind of sum up Anthony Richardson's career to date. There's an old Yiddish saying that talks about the schlemiel and the schlemazel. The schlemiel is the guy at a fancy party who spills his soup. The schlemazel is the guy he spills his soup on. Some of this stuff with AR, he just can't get out of his own way. He's the guy spilling his soup. Some of the other stuff, like some of the freak injury stuff, like reflecting on last night, like, gosh, again, he's getting hurt again. He's the schlemazel. The soup keeps getting spilled on him.
James won't have any idea what I'm talking about. Was that a Laverne and Shirley reference right there?
It's from Laverne and Shirley. It's been referenced on Parks and Rec, but
see, the latter is more my thing.
It just came to mind this morning reflecting on AR's luck again with his injury-prone history.
Can you spell those for us?
Schlemiel is Schmeile.
Okay.
Schlemazel is Schmozal.
Okay, got it.
Nobody here is going to correct you. I know that.
This is Chris. Dan. Boy, Mark, we've come a long way. 90 minutes ago, we were discussing what base we're getting to, and here we are going Laverne and Shirley.
Sprayed all fields.
Well, I'll let that be.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Thanks for bringing us
That's
right
a good
back
analogy,
there, Kevin.
honestly.
That.
I agree with that. He's the guy who can't get out of his own way. Spilling soup on himself.
Jeff, should we hit the fever before we call it a day?
Go for it real quick. Oh, I want to say yes. I want to thank you very much. Appreciate that. You're No, we were talking about the Drive Hubler keys to the game last night, and one of the things you had talked about, James, a key for them was, especially on the road, the defense, and they've had a couple of tough defensive matchups now the last couple of games. They gave up 100 to Los Angeles. They gave up 95 last night to Phoenix, and the defense has not been there. Watching the last 2 games, they just have not been able to defend.
Yeah, I brought up injuries. That's my biggest key to the game, key to the next game. Get healthy, hopefully, for Ari McDonald and Sidney Colson, who both left with significant injuries.
Gotta think a roster move today. I don't know how the medical hardships work, but they need somebody to play point guard tomorrow.
And that will be at 8 p.m. We'll have the fan pregame show beginning at 7:45, but there are your Drive Hubler keys to the game tomorrow night. Defense and trying to find people to play point guard. It'll be Jake coming your way from noon to 3 today. 3 to 6 will be JMV. Thanks for putting up with us this morning. And Mark, you can go online and talk all about